But luckily, Binface, starting with a B, will be third on the list of the acting returning officer's announcement. So we will be able to have a pretty good sense of how well Count Binface has done really rather soon. They seem to be doing final checks, sound checks, but we will be able to listen in to the returning officer any moment now. And just to repeat, they will be doing this in alphabetical order by surname. That's the order that the candidates are listed on the ballot, as is always the case in parliamentary elections, both by-elections and, of course, general elections. Well, we're getting a set. Let's listen in now.
I want to say a huge thank you from myself and also from all of the candidates who have specifically asked me to do this. A huge thank you to the staff tonight who've done a fantastic job in terms of when you look at the unique election this has been, with a unique ballot paper and the number of candidates. So on behalf of the candidates and myself, thank you very much indeed to the staff tonight. Fantastic job. I would also like to thank the candidates for the behaviour and for the way in which you conduct yourselves this evening, in which this is, and the positive way in which we spent this evening. So thank you indeed for that as well.
Thank you.
And now to the declaration. I, Ian Davidson, being the acting returning officer at the election for the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency, do hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate at the said election is as follows. Darwood Thomas Faithful, commonly known as Joseph 77, Independent, 42. Al-Khatib Adam, the Forward Party, 49. Harvey Jonathan David, commonly known as Count Binface, the Count Binface Party, 9,455. Delves Nicholas Charles Ellsworth, commonly known as Nick the Incredible Nick the Incredible Flying Brick, the official Monster Raving Loony Party, 28. Hey. Kane Tony, Independent, 17. Carr Matthew Nigel, commonly known as Woke Trump Kazi, Independent, 8. Clouston William Stewart James, Social Democrat Party, 256. Cowan Rees, Independent, 50. Cummings Glenn Charles, Independent, 7. Davies Martin, Freedom Alliance, Real People, Real Alternative, 60. Earlham Andy, Independent, 44. Farage Nigel, Reform UK, 22,239. Fard Atia, Independent, 126. Fox Lawrence, the Reclaim Party, 347. Francis Tony, Independent, 432. Green Robin, Independent, 59. Hookway Abbey, Independent, 14. Hope Allen, commonly known as Howling Lord Hope, the official Monster Raving Loony Party, 18. Ingram Stephen Richard, Independent, 159. Morris Amy, Independent, 46. Morris Derek Norbert, Independent, 100. O'Brien Martin, Independent, 65. O'Keefe Michael Noel, Independent, 19. Pellis Nick, Independent, 202. Hippalaya Ketankuma, UK Voice Safer and Stronger UK, 21. Pocock Daniel, 16. Rensley James, Consensus Party candidate, 192. Smith Jerry, Independent, 9. Stevens Kai, British Democrats, 132. Stevens John, Rejoin EU, 492. Berry Peter Bryan, commonly known as Baron von Thunderclap, the official Monster Raving Loony Party, 15. Walford Pamela, Independent, 371. White Marcus, Everyone is God, Party, 10. Wilkinson Mark, Independent, 11. The number of ballot papers rejected was as follows: for want of official mark 0, voting for more candidates than voter was entitled 40, writing or mark by which voter could be identified 1, being unmarked or wholly void for uncertainty 239, the total is 280. The electorate is 79,785, and the ballot papers issued as referred to above is 35,401, meaning that the turnout was 44.37%. And I therefore do hereby declare that Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clapton constituency at this election. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.
You are watching GB News Breakfast with that breaking news in the past few moments that Nigel Farage has won the Clacton by-election. He received 22,239 votes. That is 62.8% of the total vote. Count Binface receiving 9,455 votes. Well, should we cross straight away to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who joins us live now from Clacton.
OK, let's speak to Tom Harwood, who has been with us all evening. We're looking at the results now, so just over 1,000 ahead of where Nigel Farage was in 2024. Now, obviously, he's going to be satisfied with that, but his critics are going to say that, you know, he doesn't really have the mandate, that this is a poor performance, considering he was not up against anything other than joke characters.
This is the result where someone gets everything. Each different party will be able to argue their case. Nigel Farage knows that on two metrics, the two metrics that he pre-briefed, he has done well. Number one, he's got more votes than he got in 2024. Number two, he's got a higher share of the vote than he got in 2024. However, there was a poll out around 2 weeks ago that suggested Nigel Farage would get over 70%. Instead, it appears he's won around 63% of the vote. That is a slight underperformance given the high expectations Nigel Farage had. Equally, Count Binface seems to have surpassed the expectations that he had with almost 27% of the vote. OK, well, let's cross now to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who joins us from Clacton Leisure Centre. Morning, Chris. What a result for Nigel Farage.
Yes, never in doubt, Ellie, and morning, Mark. As Tom says there, 10% below what the polls said that Farage might get, plus 70%, 63%, 1,000 more votes than he had back at the last general election. All of the candidates of those 34 who stood, apart from 2 of them, have lost their deposit. That means they've lost the money they spent on entering this debate, this election. Those 2 are Count Binface and Nigel Farage, but he's returned at the 9th attempt as the MP for Clacton. Joining me now is Catherine Forster, our chief political correspondent. Up all night, Catherine, of course. Catherine, how are you?
Yeah, it's been quite a surreal night. I mean, we knew this would be a surreal by-election. Nigel Farage up against a bin, and yet then we had the Farage Fest. Chris on the Ferris wheel. I was traumatised just watching it.
Yeah.
It was quite incredible, but I mean. Yeah, Nigel Farage said a couple of hours ago that he'd got far, far more votes than he had in the general election 2024. Well, he's gone up from 21,225 in 2024 to 22,239, so about 1,000 votes. I mean, 5%. But look, he can say more people voted for me. I think Count Binface will be very happy. 9,455. Pretty respectable. What I find really fascinating is why Nigel Farage is not here, because there's 33 candidates there. The returning officer had no idea till Nigel Farage announced at Farage Fest that he wasn't coming, and he said that he had been advised by Sussex Police that there was a plan for disruption. A Reform spokesman later said there'd been a credible threat against him, but Sussex Police have seemed to indicate that everything security-wise was in hand, so that's rather puzzling. I should say now there's an absolute scrum of people rushing to, I suppose, the star in the absence of Nigel Farage, who's not here, the guy wearing a bin on his head. Strange times we live in.
It looks like he's leaving the hall. We may want to leave you and try and see if we get a few words with Count Binface before he leaves, but that's right. I mean, Farage isn't here. We had an inkling he may not be here. We were told by people close to Reform yesterday if he attends, and of course he told GB News when we spoke to him at the Farage Fest party around 1 in the morning. He said, wait and see and smile. So is it actually a security reason, or is it other reasons too?
Yes, I think that is a very open question. Nigel Farage was pretty careful with his language in that speech, where he said that Sussex Police had advised them of threat of disruption. But then the spokesman put it in rather stronger terms, a credible threat. And so he's not here, but you have to look at the motley band of people standing here. I've talked to a few of them, quite a few of them. I'm going to be diplomatic because there's one literally right behind me. But he did say also in that speech, why would I win a resounding victory and then be sort of humiliated by a load of nobodies? So there perhaps is something in that as well.
I think clearly, I mean, yes, let's take what Farage says at face value. We don't know all of the threats he receives. The police, though, are questioning his account. What he probably didn't want, though, Ellie and Mark, is that image of going along all 33 other candidates, some of them dressed in outlandish costumes, and there's Nigel Farage, who purports to be Prime Minister in 3 years' time. He probably didn't want that, and he hasn't got that for his enemies.
No, he hasn't. But some people will say, "Well, look at this is proof. You know, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen." And of course, it is very unusual because I think it's about 45 years since we had an MP miss a declaration. So this is not a normal thing. But then there's nothing normal about this by-election. It is the oddest thing. We're used to politics being mad for quite a while now, but you know, the fact that we've got a candidate, or the establishment candidate, as Nigel Farage said, a guy with a bin on his head, the fact that we had stories about if Count Binface wins, he's going to have to take the bin off to sit in Parliament. It's a strange summer. Has the heat gone to all of our heads?
The question now is what happens next to Nigel Farage. He'll come out fighting next week. We're expecting a big speech and announcement on Monday, possibly with Robert Jenrick, of course, who's the Shadow Treasury spokesman. He'll want to get back on the front foot. His opponents, though, will say, well, this inquiry into the £5 million gift that wasn't declared from this crypto tycoon, that restarts, and that could mean we're all back here again before Christmas in a second by-election. That, of course, is what Nigel Farage has said need not happen.
OK, thank you very much, Christopher Hope and Catherine Forster, for your stellar efforts overnight. Thank you very much. We will return to you very shortly. In the meantime, let's get some instant reaction from the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice. Very good morning to you, Mr Tice. What's your response to that result in the past few minutes? Nigel Farage has been returned as the MP for Clacton-on-Sea.
Well, obviously, it's a fantastic result. Good morning to you and your listeners and viewers. And not only has Nigel increased his vote share very dramatically from 46% to some 63%, but to secure 1,000 more votes than he got in 2024 on a turnout that is some 14% lower, from 58 down to 44%, is truly remarkable, unprecedented, and shows actually the good voters of Clacton. They've said to the establishment, they've said to the mainstream media, all of the naysayers, actually, not only do we want more, we want Nigel, we want more Nigel. And that is the key message. It's a huge result to get an increased number of votes cast in a much lower turnout. So obviously we're delighted with that. And, you know, frankly, you just touched on there, and just to clarify, Catherine, it's Essex Police, not Sussex Police. But the point is that you know, this is a rebuttal to the attacks that have been coming from the establishment on reform, on Nigel, on me, and others. And we're delighted. And now we will we'll push on towards our conference at the beginning of September, stronger. You know, frankly, stronger than ever.
We'll talk about the security situation in a second, but I mean, just how decisive is this victory? We know that your political opponents already have their talking points out there. Let's just take a listen to Bridget Phillipson, what she said overnight.
The polls are closed in Clacton, but the result will not eclipse Farage's wrongdoing. Nigel Farage has just spent 38 days fighting a bin, while Labour has been cutting business rates, capping bus fares and cracking down on vape and betting shops.
I mean, that's the point, isn't it, Richard Tice, that, you know, the political opponents are saying effectively Nigel Farage was up against a bunch of joke characters. If he didn't increase his vote, there would be something far wrong.
Well, I mean, how discourteous was it of the Labour Party, of the Tories and the Lib Dems to not put candidates up? Essentially, they were just cocking a snoop at the good voters of Clacton who said, you don't matter. Well, actually, they do matter. Nigel asked them the question, and they have said, as I say, we want more Nigel, not less Nigel. And let's just remember, at the moment, we're not in government. We're led by a government with a Prime Minister who's essentially taken over running the country in a literal coup with no electoral mandate whatsoever, and a man who doesn't care about stopping the boats, a man who's quite happy to release early killers of emergency workers, brave police officers, and who's just sort of throwing vague promises around like confetti, and a man who will face almost no scrutiny in the House of Commons, except on a couple of appearances, before mid-October. I mean, it's utterly disgraceful. And, you know, the Labour Party are carrying on with this charade. And the British people are saying, actually, you know, could you do something useful like stop the boats, stop 230 people rocking up in effectively a cargo ship? And how are you actually going to get the economy growing, stop borrowing vast sums of money? And on the list goes.
But of course, all of those political parties would say this whole thing has been a complete waste of time. It's been a waste of £250,000. That there could have been, this by-election never needed to be called. What do you say to that?
What will never need to be called is a second by-election, because the good voters have made their position very, very clear. And do you know how disgraceful it is that people like the leader of the Conservative Party essentially seem to have prejudged the outcome of this standards investigation by saying there'll be a second by-election? Well, hang on. Surely you're innocent until proven guilty, unless the establishment have basically done a deal with the commissioner to say, well, he's going to be found guilty. And I think that tells people all they need to know, which is that the question has been asked, quite rightly, Nigel said, I'm not going to be stitched up by the establishment who are literally breaking the law, we believe, in order to try and smear and discredit and libel us. And he's called them out, and they didn't even have the courtesy to have a proper electoral contest. Why? Because they knew that they would lose, and they would lose badly.
Can we just get to the bottom of this security threat? It's being reported that Essex police did not say to Nigel Farage that he shouldn't attend the count. What is the truth of this, Richard?
Well, as you can imagine, given everything that's gone on in recent days and weeks, security is very paramount to all of us at Reform. And ultimately, it was judged by Nigel's team that there was sufficient anxiety and concern and threats that meant that whilst, of course, he would love to have been at the count, ultimately, his security counts for more than anything else. And I don't think anybody, frankly, should in any way question his and his team's judgment on that.
We had the Reform UK spokesperson overnight describing a credible threat. Can you tell us any more about the information that you received overnight that meant that Nigel Farage didn't want to be on stage?
No, I can't. But I think we should. I think we should just trust those tasked with keeping Nigel safe and alive. I hesitate to say, but that's what the task is. And if a credible threat is perceived, or a deep anxiety, whatever you want to term it, clearly they're going to err on the side of caution, and that's just the reality. So yes, of course, it's a shame. He would have loved to have been there, but security is paramount, and everybody knows we've had a very, very difficult few weeks and last couple of months.
Just looking ahead, we have clearly got the situation of parliamentary inquiry that is underway against Nigel Farage, and the possibility that there will be a sanction, that we may be looking at another by-election in Clacton again. What would you say to your political opponents who may well be reaching for that particular option?
They're the ones who would then be wasting £250,000. They're the ones who had the chance to have a contest against Nigel, and they're the ones who bottled it. They're like sort of cowardly chickens. And, they had the chance, they abandoned it, and then Kemi Badenoch panicked and sent a letter to the Clacton constituents saying, oh, maybe I slightly regret not putting a candidate up, but don't vote for Nigel. I mean, the whole thing's just, it's just cowardice, pure cowardice on their behalf.
OK, Richard Tice, thank you very much for joining us this morning on GB News Breakfast.
Thank you, Richard. Can we just get some reaction again from Tom? Clearly, Nigel Farage and Reform are talking up and I don't know how much they're talking it up. There may well have been a credible threat, but as well as that, it's canny politics, isn't it, not to share the stage with 30-plus joke candidates?
I think it is the correct decision from a comms perspective from Nigel Farage. In his speech overnight, when he announced he wouldn't be attending the count, he was less equivocal that it was the police who told him not to attend. He said that following the police saying there was a threat, he has decided not to attend. Now, there was, I think, perhaps a mistaken Reform Party spokesman's statement a little bit later in the night that said the police said don't attend. That turns out not to be true, we understand, from Essex Police. But it does seem like there was some sort of idea that there would be disruption. Nigel Farage decided to stay away, partly perhaps for his safety. I think in a huge degree, clearly, he has avoided the image that his detractors wanted this morning, which was him standing next to a whole bunch of joke candidates. I have to say, whilst you were interviewing Richard Tice, I've got a statement through from Nigel Farage's own spokesman. He's told us here at GB News that Nigel Farage asked the people of Clacton to judge his record in public office, and tonight he has received more votes than he did in 2024. The result speaks for itself. Nigel Farage's spokesman there really emphasising the metric that Nigel Farage wanted to beat, was beating his 2024 result. On the one hand, that was a very difficult task because this is a by-election. By-elections generally have maybe 2/3 the turnout that you do at a general election. So besting the raw number of votes on a lower turnout, a big, big task. On the other hand, he didn't have any of the big parties as opponents. He had a pretty fertile number of votes from the Tories in Clacton at the last election to fish in, 13,000 votes for Giles Watling, the previous Conservative incumbent in Clacton. You'd think that he could pick up some of those votes. Watling was a Brexiteer, a Tory considered on the right of the party. And so you'd think that Nigel Farage could have picked up more of those votes, maybe. What I'm trying to say is ultimately, fans of Nigel Farage will be delighted with this result. He has won on the metrics that they wanted him to win on. But there is that glimmer of hope for those who are detractors of Nigel Farage, because they'll be able to say, well, OK, he won handsomely, but he didn't win quite as handsomely as the Survation poll a couple of weeks ago predicted he might.
Just briefly, the counter-narrative, though, is that, you know, as you said, getting more people out in a by-election is difficult compared to a general election. But also you could argue that getting people enthused about a campaign in which no serious, credible political candidates are standing other than Nigel Farage is enormously difficult as well. So on both counts, he scores.
This is completely true. In an age of political apathy, this shows that the Reform Party has matured in a way that a lot of people are suspicious about. UKIP never had this. The Brexit Party never had this, and this is a ground game. Data on the ground. Teams of people knowing where their votes are, finding where those doors are, knocking on those doors on the day. This is going to be really important if, as I'm sure you might discuss a bit later in the programme, if the process of the Standards Commissioner goes to the Standards Committee, goes to a vote of MPs, goes to a recall petition, goes to another by-election, if that sequence of events, if those dominoes fall, well, Nigel Farage now has excellent data about where his voters are in Clacton, and he can turn them out again and again and again. That will be why a lot of people in Reform are breathing a sigh of relief today, that they have turned out a considerable number of their voters, and they have the data that other parties haven't collected over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Hey, Tom, you must be a tired wee bunny. You've done very well.
He lives for this.
Honestly, throughout the night, keeping everybody abreast of the developments. Thanks for that. We're going to let you get off to your bed now.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks very much.
Well, let's bring in Eugene McCarthy, Chair of London Greens, and Conservative Councillor Philip Stevenson Oliver for Westminster City Council. They're both with us in the studio. Morning to you, gentlemen. Eugene, let's start with you. Has Nigel Farage been vindicated here? He wanted the good people of Clacton-on-Sea to be his judge, and he's got an increased vote share with a smaller turnout.
Well, I think it's quite a contrived contest to begin with, where this isn't a by-election that needed to be called, as we've been discussing about the Standards Commission. There could well be another by-election. So he's conjured up this whole thing, presumably has a plan in the background to get this ground campaign running, has all the data, as Tom has just mentioned, from the previous general election campaign and the county elections in Essex earlier this year. So they have a wealth of data, and they've managed to basically stay in place. So they've not gained the votes which a lot of the polls were predicting. I think the really interesting thing about this is the bin-face result, not because I think bin-face is particularly funny, but because it shows a real willingness of Conservative voters, Labour voters, Green voters, Lib Dem voters to vote tactically against reform. I think this is something that has been really difficult to measure, but bin-face being a completely non-party candidate with no serious policies shows that these are voters who are just anti-Nigel Farage, who really don't like the guy.
But Eugene, Nigel Farage has cut you away at the knees, hasn't he? At the end of the day, as much as you might want to, you can't really go back to the people of Clacton again and ask them to go to the polls when, however you might dispute just how well he's done better than the last time in a by-election with no serious candidates standing to try and get the electorate out to do that. It would backfire spectacularly if you tried to do it again, surely.
Well, it might do, and I think there's a really kind of important point to be made, which is that this is not about kind of what would be good politics, what would be good optics for Parliament, or what kind of the I guess, sensible thing to do with taxpayers' money in terms of a by-election is this is parliamentary procedure, and Nigel Farage seemingly has made a big blunder with not declaring certain donations, which could well go back to the electorate for another by-election. Now, if this guy were Prime Minister and this donation scandal hadn't had happened now, that could be derailing a reform government. Like, imagine what Keir Starmer did to the Boris Johnson government and other Conservative governments, scaled up to 10 if reform came in. All of the legal challenges, they really need to dot their I's and cross their T's if they want to govern effectively, and I'm not convinced that reform have really thought all of this through.
Philip, let's bring you in. Was it a mistake for Kemi Badenoch not to stand a Tory candidate in this seat?
No, I don't think it was. I mean, Richard Tice sort of mentioned earlier that I think he's maybe poor form that we didn't stand, but we're not there to massage Nigel Farage's ego on this. This is a by-election that we didn't need, a result that we already knew for an election that nobody wanted. And I think to get 60% of the vote, and I would like to, I don't want to be churlish, I'd like to congratulate him for winning, but to get 60% of the vote when you're running against a bin is just a bit ridiculous.
But Philip, you may well be right that no one really wanted this election, but we've had it, and this is the thing that Nigel Farage will now be able to argue that, look, this is a big conspiracy by the Uniparty here to come back if they try to go for yet another by-election just weeks or months after the people of Clacton have, they would say, sent their message very decisively here.
Yeah, well, I mean, he can argue that all he likes, and Richard Tice can sort of argue that that we don't need another by-election, but it's not up to him, it's not up to me, it's not up to you, it's not to anyone. It's down to the parliamentary investigation. And if with what he's done is commit some sort of not so much a criminal issue, but to basically go against the rules, then he will be subject to the proper parliamentary process, and that's something that all members of Parliament have to abide by. And he was the president of Reform, so the idea that he was not involved in politics is just absolutely farcical. We have to wait to see what the process deems.
There is this charge, though, from Reform UK that this whole Clacton by-election has been proof of the Uni Party in action. Every single main political party refusing to stand a candidate in order to try and show Nigel Farage up. What do you say to that charge?
I mean, this is what happened with David Davis. This has happened in very similar situations. Get over it. We're not here to massage your ego. He shouldn't have called this election. The reason why he did this, and let's be clear, was to get himself out of some bad headlines. And anyone with a brain could have told him that we're about to get a new Prime Minister. He did not need to waste public money. He did not need to, let's be fair, also ruin his summer for essentially trumping around Clacton to win an election he already knew who was going to win. I mean, the whole thing is just farcical. And then we're talking about a bin.
Eugene, can you understand why? I mean, it seems actually that, like canny politics, that Nigel Farage was not going to go up on the stage with all of those candidates, and undoubtedly some that would have been looking to disrupt this event. We only need to look at what happens at PMQs. Anytime Nigel Farage stands up, these are supposedly professional MPs who heckle him constantly.
Yeah, I actually do completely understand their security concerns. These are really serious, and I do genuinely believe that. I think, however, there is a big issue for them that all the journalists and reporters are in the count. They're speaking to the candidates there, and by kind of abdicating that space to Count Binface, they are really making him the star of the show. Nigel Farage has just kind of gone off. He's got a little.
I mean, to be fair, he is still in Clacton.
He's in Clacton.
He's just stepped away from the count.
It doesn't seem like he's been unprepared. He's got all the fireworks. He did a press statement earlier with some pretty tacky snare beat. Bit odd, but it was certainly not unprepared. I mean, I think it was an oversight. He should be there. I don't think that it's actually bad optics to show all of this ridiculousness on stage. It shows him against people who are far less serious than he is, which I think is a good comparison to make for him, as I would argue he is a bit ridiculous himself.
But as we just heard from Richard Tice there, Reform UK understand that there was a credible threat. They're not willing to go into any more detail than that, but they are saying we do have to take that seriously. And we can understand that, can't we, in these serious times, in the context of Anne Widdecombe, why you wouldn't want to put yourself in that position. Philip?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we don't know the full details behind this. I think it's somewhat convenient. He didn't want to be next to a bin and a whole other load of other joke candidates. You know, I don't know the full details. I'm not going to speculate, but let's just say I think it's hilariously convenient that he doesn't need to stand next to a bin.
OK, Philip Stevenson, Oliver and Eugene McCarthy, really good to get your take on things this morning. You're back with us in the next hour, aren't you? Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Now, let's take a look at some of the other stories coming into the GB newsroom.
And homes have been destroyed and families forced to flee as wildfires spread across the West Midlands. Fire crews say they're dealing with extreme demand, with a child and 3 firefighters taken to hospital.
A large and complex incident that has occurred on one of the hottest days of the year. Our fire control team have been dealing with thousands of 999 calls.
2 people are seriously injured after a train carrying around 150 passengers derailed near Lewes in East Sussex. Yesterday afternoon, British Transport Police declared a major incident after 3 carriages came off the track with passengers trapped before they were safely cut free and evacuated.
A petition calling on the government to stop the early release of PC Andrew Harper's killers is expected to hit 1 million signatures today. Public pressure has been growing since it emerged that Jesse Cole and Albert Bowers could be freed early under measures designed to ease prison overcrowding.
Well, just moments ago, Nigel Farage was declared winner of the Clacton by-election.
And the ballot papers issued, as referred to above, is 35,401, meaning that the turnout was 44.37%. And I therefore do hereby declare that Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
Well, we're joined now by Sebastian Milbank, editor at The Critic. Very good morning to you, Sebastian. What's your reaction to that result overnight? Nigel Farage being returned as the MP for Clacton.
Well, as everyone and their aunt's saying, it's unsurprising. But I do think we're all a bit sick of the way that democracy has been used as stage scenery by the political classes. I mean, we can say, you know, people are accusing Nigel Farage of pulling a political stunt here, but at the same time, the choice of nobody to run against him, you know, there were 9,000 votes that went to a joke candidate. I mean, do people really think there could have been more votes in an anti-Farage vote if they stood a serious candidate? But they didn't. And I think this is a huge mistake. You know, if we don't take democracy seriously, if we treat by-elections this way, we're setting ourselves up for real trouble.
So, I mean, the other parties you're saying should have stood candidates. At the end of the day, if we go to yet another by-election, those candidates are going to come into the mix.
Well, I mean, well, exactly. And again, I mean, again, I need to emphasise that there's 9,500 votes went for a comedy candidate. You know, if they swung behind a local independent candidate, it could have been a lot more. And I just think that this sense of, you know, a vote, you know, a democratic vote, a fundamental part of our constitution, being treated like a political football, being treated like just another bit of comms, it's a big mistake on everyone's part because it degrades trust in democracy. It's not good.
What did you make, Sebastian, of that shock announcement from Nigel Farage about 3 o'clock this morning that he would not be attending the count? He says he was advised by Essex Police that there was this campaign to disrupt and degrade the election results. Now, we understand that the police didn't go so far as to say that he shouldn't attend, but we have since heard from a Reform UK spokesperson describing a credible threat against Nigel Farage. Do you think he made the right decision not to appear on that stage this morning?
Well, only seeing the police know what the contents of that were, so it might be more serious than it sounds. But I think politically, it was probably it's hard to say because on the one hand, it's obvious the photo op he didn't want, but at the same time, this is an election he's called. I think he should show up, and I think it was a political mistake. And I think this kind of victim sort of act isn't serving him well.
But in terms of the result and everything we've been discussing about the fact that it's a by-election, you know, trying to get the vote out is difficult enough. Then when you don't have the main party standing as well, it could be argued it's even more difficult to get people enthused about it. An extra 1,000 or so voters on that 2024 result is actually a good result for Nigel Farage, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's a show of strength by the people of Clacton behind him. That this is this is a part of the country that's been completely left behind, completely abandoned by the political establishment. And when you see MPs in Parliament jeering their MP, they're not getting the when they send a sentient bin to represent the establishment, they're not getting the message. We really care about you, and we think Nigel Farage is doing a bad job. They're getting the message. We think you're a joke. And I think that's a catastrophic message to send to voters in an election. You just look at all of this that's going on. You think about the damage we're doing to our society, the damage we're doing to our system. And I think the Westminster class is, whether it's people like me, journalists and commentators, whether it's politicians, we're far too complacent. We treat this stuff like it's a game, like it's a sporting match. We're all doing our little this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, it fundamentally matters. It's people's lives, and we shouldn't be treating it like this.
Sebastian, just before we let you go, what next for Nigel Farage? We've got this investigation by the Standards Commissioner, which we imagine will restart now. The other political parties already talking about a second by-election. We just asked Richard Tice about that, Deputy Political Leader of Reform UK, and he was saying, well, doesn't that just prove everything, that already they have assumed the outcome of that investigation? They're already talking about this second by-election before Christmas. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I just think it's very unfortunate when we're not dealing with substance and we're constantly dealing with these process stories. And look, obviously there are serious questions to answer here, but again, Farage isn't the only politician who's had these sort of things levelled against him. And I worry about any process where it's happening through Parliament because it's inevitably risks politicisation. And I think we need serious independent agencies that deal with corruption in public life, and it shouldn't just be down to these parliamentary processes.
OK, Sebastian Milbank, really good to get your analysis this morning and your reaction to that result overnight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Right. The panel with the papers is next, but it's not really papers, it's just reaction to everything that's happened overnight. The wonderful Claire Purcell and Nigel Nelson.
Where's the wonderful?
Oh, well,
Nigel, let's start with you. Has Nigel Farage been vindicated? He said he wanted the people of Clacton to be his judge, and they have judged, and they've returned him as MP to Clacton-on-Sea with 1,000 more votes.
It's a wonderful victory for Nigel, isn't it?
Well, is it? Congratulations to him. I mean, any victor deserves that. And I think he would have won the by-election had other parties been standing. But the other parties weren't. Had they been, the last election, if you put them all together, all four major parties, you were talking about 24,000 votes out there. So it would have been interesting to see what would have happened had they been doing that. And then his vote share may well have gone down.
Richard Tice was speaking to us just a few minutes ago, actually, condemning both Labour, Conservatives, other parties for not putting candidates forward. Before we get your reaction to that, let's take a listen.
They're the ones who had the chance to have a contest against Nigel, and they're the ones who bottled it. They're like sort of cowardly chickens.
Was it him or someone else doing the chicken?
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if that was sort of a sound effect that he had sort of ready to play.
Have they shot their bolt, though, in terms of not being able to come at him again in another by-election? Because it would be a really bad look after this to go back to the people of Clacton again?
Well, no, I think the main parties viewed this as some kind of vanity election going on. They didn't consider it to be a worthwhile effort. And I think that there is something in that, is that this was purely to bolster up Nigel Farage and the problems he was having at the time with donations. So this was his popularity contest. He has succeeded, and congratulations. As Nigel said, I think anybody that wins an election, puts themselves forward, should be congratulated. But do I think it's cowardly of especially the Conservatives? No, I don't. I think that this is a waste of money. This is a waste of taxpayers' money to have this kind of by-election. If we are going to have one again in the future, I assume that more parties would stand. But that remains to be seen. And any general election, then there'll be a full slate of candidates.
If it was a waste of money this time, why was it not a waste of money in 3 months' time or so after we've reached whatever conclusion of this parliamentary committee?
Well, there is a whole process to go through, because you've got the committee's decision to be made. If that goes to a recall petition, then the people of Clacton have to decide whether they want there to be a by-election or not. So it is down to them at the end of it. So there could be, or there couldn't. You know, it's one of those sort of diagrams, sort of flowcharts that you end up with. So nobody can predict whether there will be one. There is a possibility, or the next election in Clacton could be another general election, which I think is going to come sooner rather than later.
But if there is another one, that's a necessary one. This was a pointless one.
This is a process,
yeah. I mean, this is
but was it only a pointless one because no other political party decided to stand?
Well, I mean, it was pointless from the start to even call it. There was absolutely... Look, Reform are not terribly keen on calling by-elections. They've had several people who've defected from the Conservative Party, who've gone back on the manifestos they stood on. They haven't called by-elections. So it's hardly as if Reform are great sort of Democrats. Nigel Farage called it. It was a stunt. The other parties wouldn't play ball.
He says the investigation being launched into him was being used as a political tool by the Uni Party, and then you see this Uni Party not choosing to stand in this by-election. Is that just not proof of exactly what he's describing?
Well, not really, when you don't need the by-election in the first place. I mean, the point of the other parties was quite simply, why should we stand in a by-election here that didn't need to be called? The whole thing is a bit of a joke, and then it became a total joke when it turned out that Nigel's main opponent was a bin. So he's made himself look silly. It's achieved absolutely nothing. He's an MP again. He will still go through the standards investigation that he would have gone through had it not been suspended while this was going on. We may get another election. We'll just have to see.
Claire, whether there should have been this particular by-election, the rights and wrongs of that, you know, can be debated. But the fact is now, from Nigel Farage's point of view, there is a narrative that he can point to, that he can use, that if the other parties do decide to go down the road of trying to get another by-election, he can absolutely tell his followers that, look what is happening. This is the establishment going after us, needlessly going back to the polls when we've had that. He does have that narrative now.
But it wouldn't be needlessly. I mean, if it is something that the people of Clacton have asked for, if the recall petition reaches a certain percentage, then it's entirely up to them. They would be the ones that put that by-election on the...
Sure, that's the argument from the other side, but I'm saying his narrative is strengthened now because he can say to the electorate, look, this is exactly what I said would happen. The establishment are out to undermine us and
you can spin it all you like.
Of course.
At the end of the day, the underlying cause of this was the fact that there is an investigation into financial concerns. That hasn't gone away. So you can spin it all you like and say that, well, the people have voted for me, this is just an establishment stitch-up. But essentially, you haven't changed the facts of it. All you've done is change the rhetoric around it. So, yeah, he is the victor at the moment. He will use this inordinately to go out there and bolster up a position. But I find it a shame that he's not going to hold a speech or any kind of Q&A after winning this. He isn't going to hold that this morning, and I think that's a little bit disappointing.
Well, Nigel, let's talk about the fact that Nigel Farage was not at the count. He made that shock announcement at about 3 o'clock this morning that he wouldn't be there. He was advised by Essex Police that there was this campaign to disrupt and degrade the election result. Now, Essex Police, we understand, didn't say anything to any candidate about attendance, but we've since heard from a Reform spokesperson that there was a credible threat to Nigel Farage. What do you make of all of this, and do you think he was right not to appear on that stage?
No, I think he was wrong. I mean, the only person who's not turned up in history was Bobby Sands, who was in prison at the time, starving himself to death. So he couldn't turn up to his count. Nigel Farage should have been there. I don't believe for one moment he would have ever have been there. The last thing he wants is a picture going down around the world of him standing next to a bin. So it was never going to happen. Essex Police won't confirm that there was any kind of threat. They say that they were protecting all the candidates. They were quite happy with it. The returning officer says it was all news to him that there'd been any kind of threat. I heard the Reform spokesman say there was a credible threat. There may have been that we don't know about, but certainly from the official responses we've had since, there's absolutely no sign of one.
Well, the credibility or otherwise of the threat is one thing, but actually it's canny politics, isn't it? Not to appear on stage with a rabble who, whatever you say, there would have been elements on that stage that would have sought to disrupt Nigel Farage's moment in the sun.
Well, we don't know. I mean, we don't know what they might have done.
You're a very experienced political operator. You know that there would have been people on that stage who would have been looking to disrupt this.
I think they may have made a few jokes or something like that, but I don't. But there's no evidence they were actually going to disrupt it. And we saw the count go ahead, and it all went off perfectly smoothly.
OK, well, Nigel and Claire, thank you very much for your company. We'll see you again in about 45 minutes' time for more reaction and analysis. For now, though, let's head to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who joins us live from Clacton. Very good morning to you, Chris. What a night.
Yeah, indeed, what a night. And where are we this morning? Well, Nigel Farage has won the seat back, the seat he won, of course, in July 2024, with 1,000 more votes than that. All other candidates in this by-election, all other 32 of those candidates have lost their deposit. They've got fewer than 5% of the vote. The only one who hasn't is Count Binface. He got over 9,455 votes. He, of course, was the protest candidate, the candidate which the main parties were getting behind. We saw anecdotally from reporting that some of them were saying vote Count Binface to try and unseat Nigel Farage. That hasn't worked. Farage has not turned up at that event this morning, at the count, within the past hour. And also he now won't do an event this morning, a speech. So he has gone away to lick his wounds. We'll see him again on Monday, when I think politics goes back to normal, with the opposition parties demanding that he faces some form of this inquiry carries on that could lead to another by-election back in Clacton in a few months' time, if it goes that far. Of course, Farage's team will say, well, don't bother doing it because I've won with an increased majority. Let's move on and stop trying to hound me, he'll say.
And Christopher, tell us more about this decision by Nigel Farage not to appear at the count. We had a commentator on earlier, a Conservative commentator, saying it was all very convenient that he wouldn't be on a stage with those joke candidates and there wouldn't be pictures of him around the world being stood next to a bin. But then we're also hearing from Reform UK that there was a credible threat. And you can understand, can't you, in these serious times, and we just had the funeral of Anne Widdecombe this week, why Nigel Farage would not risk any threat to his safety today.
Well, that's right. I mean, we should look at what Essex Police say, and our sources at Essex Police tell us in this specific instance, we have not advised any candidate that they should not attend the count. That's what the police are saying. Nigel Farage says differently. I should say that yesterday afternoon, we were told by his team if he attends the count. When I interviewed Nigel Farage at 1 a.m. this morning at the Farage Fest event he put on for his supporters, he said wait and see, and chuckled as he walked away when I said, will you attend the count? And of course he announced that at 3 a.m. So clearly the idea of not being at the count has been there at the backs of the minds of Reform people for quite a while. Of course we don't know what he's seeing, and of course there may not be a threat to pass the threshold of Essex Police, but his team may say, well, it's not safe in that environment, haven't checked all the people in the hall, even though we're all scanned going in and going out. But as Mark says, the political reality is, would he want to be photographed amongst 34 candidates, some of them wearing outlandish costumes like a bin? That would damage him, because that photograph would be in the main papers tomorrow morning. He wouldn't want that, so he's been possibly safe from that too.
OK, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Stellar work overnight, and you're continuing into this programme. So thank you very much. And Clacton looks absolutely beautiful this morning, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, still to come, lots more reaction to that news that Nigel Farage has won the Clacton by-election.
Also, the latest on the West Midlands wildfires. We're going to give you the latest updates on that.
But first, it's time for your weather with Annie Shuttleworth.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. A considerably cooler day to come for many of us. Still quite hot in the south and east, but not quite as exceptionally hot as yesterday. Cloud and rains pushed in from the north and west overnight, so some outbreaks of showery rain are likely across some more north and western areas. Across many central and eastern areas, though, it's going to remain very hot and sunny throughout the day. There's a risk of some fairly heavy showers across more northwestern areas, but the showers aren't going to be quite as heavy as yesterday, and temperatures will be a little bit lower. Quite widely across parts of more western Wales, western England, temperatures a good 5 or 6 degrees cooler than yesterday. Still, though, in the low 30s in the south and east. Into this evening, showers will continue across parts of northwestern Scotland in particular. A few of these are moving into more eastern and southern areas, but I think it should stay largely dry across southern and eastern Scotland. Similar story for parts of Northern Ireland. A few showers just pushing in from the north and west, and you can see some showery rain across parts of southern England. I think it's going to be quite light and just mainly cloud when it does move in, but that is a weather front pushing eastwards. It will continue to push eastwards throughout Friday night into Saturday morning, and as that moves into the more humid air in the south and east, we could see some heavier showers across parts of southern eastern England to start the day on Saturday. So quite a humid and warm night in the south and east. Elsewhere, though, much fresher temperatures around 10 to 12 degrees for many rural areas in particular, so much more comfortable for sleeping to start the weekend. There's plenty of dry weather on the cards for this weekend across the UK, plenty of sunshine as well, and it will feel cooler than it has done lately. It will continue to see showers across more northwestern areas, quite light though, and for most of us it's going to be a dry and warm weekend with temperatures much closer to average in the mid-20s. Bye-bye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Birmingham's M6 southbound between junctions 5 and 4A has lane closures. Northamptonshire's M1 southbound between junctions 18 and 17 faces disruptions. Solihull's Link Road from M6 junction 4A to M42 southbound faces restrictions. Berkshire's M40 southbound between junctions 5 and 4 has a lane closed. In Kent, M20 eastbound access from junction 8 is closed. In Cheshire West and Chester, repairs affect the Link Road from M53 southbound junction 11 to M56 eastbound junction 15. Salford's M602 eastbound between junctions 1 and 2 is undergoing maintenance. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes. You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner. First of all, we want to give you £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 Entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Nigel Farage returns as a Member of Parliament, winning the Clacton by-election with over 22,000 votes.
Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
Well, the Reform UK leader did not attend the count, claiming police warned of an organised plot to disrupt the declaration and humiliate him on stage.
Having won a resounding victory, a ringing endorsement of all that I've tried to fight for and you try to fight for, and be demeaned and humiliated by nobodies, and I will not, sadly, be attending the count.
Well, Count Binface came second with over 9,000 votes following a boycott from other major political parties, a move that Deputy Leader Richard Tice branded cowardly.
They're the ones who had the chance to have a contest against Nigel, and they're the ones who bottled it. They're like sort of cowardly chickens.
A nice chicken impersonation there. Taking to social media in the last few minutes, the Reform leader said the result in Clacton speaks for itself.
Nigel Farage is back as the MP for Clacton, but the issues still remain. The investigation into the £5 million gift from a donor carries on. We could be here all over again in a few months' time.
This is a large and complex incident that has occurred on one of the hottest days of the year. Our fire control team have been dealing with thousands of 999 calls.
Firefighters battle to bring huge grass wildfires in Stourbridge under control. It's as extensive devastation spreads to multiple homes in the West Midlands.
2 people are severely injured after a train carrying around 150 passengers derailed near Lewes in East Sussex as rail bosses announced an investigation into the cause of the incident.
Good morning. Yesterday was exceptionally hot. Today will be much cooler for most areas, so still quite warm in the south and east. I'll have all the details for you a little later on.
Good morning, it's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Mark White. Welcome along to GB News Breakfast.
Yes, good morning. Nigel Farage has been re-elected as Clacton MP in an overwhelming victory.
Farage Nigel, Reform UK, 22,239. And I therefore do hereby declare that Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
Well, Mr Farage refused to attend the by-election count overnight after Essex police warned him of an organised campaign to disrupt and degrade the result.
Well, let's speak now to Liberal Democrat Cabinet spokesperson Lisa Smart. Very good morning to you, Ms Smart. We just heard from Nigel Farage there calling this an overwhelming victory. What do you make of the result overnight?
Anybody has a fight with a bin, they end up looking quite daft and just smelling of last week's chip paper. This whole circus that has come to Clacton has been brought about because Nigel Farage was wanting to avoid the scrutiny that comes with an investigation into his financial affairs. He seems to have taken a gift, as he's describing it, of £5 million from the Thai-based crypto billionaire Christopher Harbon. The Standards Commissioner is looking into that as to whether any rules were broken around whether he should have declared it or other matters. And the investigation needs to be paused while a by-election happens. That's the reason this by-election was called, and that's the reason why the main parties didn't stand. Farage has ended up looking daft. I think it's a real shame he didn't feel able to go to the count to thank the many hundreds of people who have made our democracy work and the many thousands of people who voted. And I think that says an awful lot about how he feels about those people.
Well, Lisa Smart, like the other political parties, of course, you've got your amusing analogy there about Nigel Farage up against a bin. But isn't the fact of it that, you know, it's a by-election, it's difficult enough to get the electorate enthused about that. And then, of course, you and the other political parties decided not to put any candidates up at all. So actually, getting an increase in the votes compared to 2024 is no mean feat, is it?
I think our democracy is worthy of respect, and I think it happens.
So why didn't you stand a candidate then if it's worthy of respect?
I think it's worthy of respect, by which I mean the £300,000 price tag that comes with a by-election being called just on the whim of one person who's trying to avoid the rightful scrutiny that's going on his financial affairs was not something we wanted to take part in. We have had as Liberal Democrats, a really proud history of having some cracking results in by-elections over the years. This is an unusual one because it was called simply on the say-so of Nigel Farage because he wanted to pause the investigation. That isn't something we wanted to be part of. That isn't something we thought should cost the taxpayer the amount it's cost the taxpayer, and that's why we didn't participate. Look, we have got a really proud record of standing up for our constituents. While Farage has been fighting a by-election, we've been standing up for the things that our constituents who elected us to Parliament wanted us to fight about, whether that's about what's going on in the NHS, making sure people can get the social care they deserve, whether that's talking about transport safety. We've seen a train derailment in recent days, whether that's this week have called for Parliament to be recalled to talk about early release of prisoners so that people who've been involved in the death of a police officer can not be released as part of the government's ongoing plan to stop the prisons crisis. So we've been getting on with the job rather than trying to bring a media circus to Clacton while simultaneously avoiding the scrutiny that comes from an investigation into somebody's standards and financial affairs.
Well, Nigel Farage would say that the investigation into him by the Parliamentary Standards Watchdog was being used as a political tool by the other main political parties. And you can understand, can't you, why he might say that this is proof of the uni party in action, because not only does he believe that this is being used as a political tool, then those very same main political parties all refused to stand a candidate in the by-election that he called. Is this just not proof of the uni party in action? It feeds into his narrative, doesn't it, that this is the establishment versus Nigel Farage?
If Nigel Farage wanted to show respect to the standards process, he would have stayed in Parliament and let it run its course. Now that he's coming back to Westminster, that investigation should absolutely crack on. I mentioned some of the things that I've been doing, that other Lib Dem elected colleagues have been doing while Farage has been having a scrap with a bin. He was elected as the Member of Parliament for Clacton. That's a really serious job. Nigel Farage is often on the lecture circuit in the US. He finds himself in large halls, taking large speaking fees rather than talking about the things that matter to his constituents. There is legislation going through Parliament that talks about the very nature of our democracy. It talks about how politics isn't working for people. And I understand why people are frustrated that they can't get things changed, that they vote and they seem to think that things are the same regardless of who they vote for. And I get that. Our system is breaking. Our system is not fit for purpose and it's not giving people what they need. I want to be part of fixing politics, not just standing from the sidelines and saying everything's rubbish. We as Lib Dems have got plans of how you fix that. We change the way we do our politics. That means you can change the way we do things in our country. And that has got to be the way to do things, rather than having a hissy fit, causing a by-election and then complaining about how everything is done in the midst of it.
Well, just very briefly, Lisa Smart, given that you mentioned just about the waste of time and the waste of money of holding this by-election, I'm sure then that the Liberal Democrats will not be supporting another by-election should that be the outcome that's called for after this inquiry.
Any MP, including Nigel Farage, has been found to have broken the rules in a way that triggers a recall petition. The law exists for a reason. The whole reason Farage has caused this by-election is to try and avoid the real by-election later, after the conclusion of the Standards investigation. That Standards investigation should crack on, and anybody who is found to have broken the rules should be held properly to account.
OK, Lisa Smart, Liberal Democrat spokesperson. Thank you for joining us this morning on GB News Breakfast.
Thank you. Well, GB News political editor Christopher Hope now joins us from Clacton Leisure Centre with that beautiful big wheel behind him. Chris.
That's right. A new dawn has broken in politics, or maybe it hasn't. After a 38-day break in being the MP for Clacton, Nigel Farage is back. He's back as the MP here. What's happened? Well, it's cost us £250,000 of our taxpayers' money to stage this event. 34 candidates stood. Only 2 of them held on to their deposit. That's more than 5% of the votes cast. The other one was Count Binface, the self-styled intergalactic space warrior. He is the best performing novelty candidate ever in British electoral history. He had 6 times more votes than Screaming Lord Sutch back in 1994 in the Rotherham by-election. In the past few moments, Count Binface has issued a statement. He says he was a winning candidate of those who turned up for the result. And of course he's right, because Nigel Farage didn't turn up for the result. We had an inkling that was going to happen from sources in the party yesterday afternoon. He told me that he wouldn't come. It would be wait and see, he said, when I asked him at 1 a.m. At the Farage Fest event he put on. Then at 3 a.m. he said he's not coming because he said there was a credible threat of people trying to upset the result or make a fuss when it was unveiled in Clacton Leisure Centre at 6 a.m. The Essex Police, for their part, say they did not warn any candidate to stay away. So the question remains, such as it is whether the threat to Nigel Farage was a police matter or below a police matter, but enough to be embarrassing to him. And that may be the point of where we are today, because what would have happened had Nigel Farage come to the result, the cameras would have panned along from all of these novelty candidates, various 3 candidates from the official monster raving loony party, howling Lord Hope and so forth. It would have been embarrassing for him. He's been spared that. He's also called off a speech this morning at 10:30. He's gone back, presumably, to his home for a weekend, and then back on Monday when politics starts again. He's hoping this sees off any idea of a further by-election if he's found to have broken rules by not declaring this £5 million gift from this Christopher Harborne, this Thai crypto billionaire. He'll say, I've done it, I won 1,000 more votes than back in July 2024, let's not do it all again. But his critics will say, why shouldn't we? And next time they may stand credible candidates against him. Next time it could be more difficult for Nigel Farage.
Just very briefly, just before we leave you, does Nigel Farage get to deliver a speech to Parliament again when it resumes?
Well, he can do. He won't deliver a maiden speech because he's been an MP already, in the same way Andy Burnham didn't deliver a maiden speech when he was elected as MP for Makerfield. Right. He'll just come back on the 2nd of September and try and make an intervention, and so politics goes on. That inquiry into him carries on. I should say, by the way, while I've got you both, when I spoke to Nigel Farage at 1 a.m, he kind of went towards saying he may have put some of the wrong forms in, filled the wrong piece of paper in, but what he did say was, I'm not guilty of any kind of fraud and any further more serious offence, but he did suggest there may be a problem with the forms, the declarations he made to Parliament, so he's almost slightly admitting there could be an issue there.
Oh, OK, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. We'll speak to you again in about 25 minutes' time.
Thanks, Chris. Right, time now to get the reaction of a couple of our panellists, Eugene McCarthy, Chair of London Greens, and Conservative Councillor Philip Stevenson, Oliver from Westminster City Council even.
Morning again, gentlemen. Eugene, let's start with you, shall we? We just spoke to Lisa Smart of the Liberal Democrats there, denying that this was proof of the uniparty in action, also talking about this as a democracy being worthy of respect. If it is worthy of respect, why not stand a candidate?
It's not a real by-election. That's the simple truth of it.
Because they decided not to stand, because no major political party decided to stand.
Because there's clearly going to be another one if Nigel Farage were re-elected.
But you're presuming the outcome. You're presuming there the outcome of the investigation into Nigel Farage.
I mean, we can all see it's not a criminal investigation; it's a parliamentary standards one, so you can. Talk about what is at stake. And I think Nigel Farage, I mean, he's starting to, over the last couple of weeks, has been laying out the seeds of almost admitting that he made some mistakes, regardless of kind of what the donations are. These are parliamentary standards, so they can be used against any politician. Keir Starmer used them repeatedly against the Conservative Party in the last government, so these would be used against Farage if he were Prime Minister. But, I mean, it's not a real by-election. There is likely to be another one. It's also kind of like trying to fight Ed Davey and the Lib Dems in Richmond. Like, it's their stronghold. Another party probably won't win. And we saw kind of the similar thing in the mid-2000s when I was a wee lad with David Davis, I think it was, basically holding a by-election as a political stunt over some of the terror legislation, which was being implemented by Tony Blair at the time. Like, no other party stood there because it wasn't a real by-election, it wasn't a real contest.
Well, Philip, as Eugene said there, it's like fighting Ed Davey in his constituency. No other party really stands a chance. If that is the case, then why on earth should the other political parties countenance yet another by-election if we get to that point after this parliamentary inquiry, if it's not going to make any difference?
Well, I think that this by-election was unique because it was purely just a political stunt. It was all designed to get him out of the headlines, and as I've said before, I'm told him that, frankly, a new Prime Minister would have just, when Burnham got elected, would have taken him out of the headlines anyway, is always an anathema to me. But if the parliamentary investigation finds that he's done something wrong, then I would say that's a legitimate case to stand a Conservative candidate against him.
Do you think it was a mistake by Kemi Badenoch not to stand a Conservative candidate this time around, bearing in mind that back in 2024, 13,000 people voted for the Tories?
No. Like I said, this is a whole political stunt, and I've said before...
You're not cowardly chickens, as Richard Tice would say.
I have laid no eggs and I have no feathers, to the best of my knowledge. No, I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous, and like I said, we are not here to massage this man's ego. It's not why we're here.
Eugene?
I mean, it's a fake by-election. I do think that it would be good for us, the Green Party, to stand in the next by-election. I've been campaigning, I'm an Essex boy, been campaigning across Essex.
But you just said just a minute ago that there's no point. It's like standing up against Ed Davey. It's a waste of money, isn't it? And a waste of time.
Out there and like pulling together voters who do want a real kind of a government that takes action, particularly on public spending, investing in communities that have been left behind, like Clacton, which a free market Reform UK will not do, let's be clear. I think there's a lot of people there who will get behind that message. We might not win, but I want to offer that to them. And,
but you didn't offer it to them this time around.
Because it's not a real by-election, and there's very likely to be another one. And for a party like us, you know, we have very little money. We don't have big corporate donors. They are expensive campaigns to run. we can't just do them time and time again. We don't have money like Reform do to keep doing this and splashing cash left, right and centre.
Would there be any point of a second by-election? The people of Clacton have spoken and they want Nigel Farage.
It doesn't really matter if there's a point or not, because this is the parliamentary procedure. There is a set of rules that MPs have to follow, and if a senior politician has made such a massive blunder to get themselves in a position where they can be recalled and derailed, that is a serious indictment of their seriousness. And I think that a leader of a party that until recently was topping the polls should really take that into consideration.
Philip, were you surprised that Nigel Farage wasn't at the count this morning?
I thought it was a little bit poor form, to be fair. I mean, I know...
Well, if there was a serious and credible threat against him, you can understand why he choose not to be there, according to Reform.
According to Reform, as I said, and we've said, we do not know the full details for it. I think it's an important part of the democratic process. I mean, for heaven's sake, if Liz Truss can stand when she gets annihilated, at least Nigel Farage can do that. I find it fascinating how, as it were, the other political parties being blamed for this absolute fiasco for us not standing. I mean, to use democracy in this way as a political stunt is just a complete disgrace.
Isn't the truth of it, Philip, though, that Nigel Farage has already won the narrative here, because having gone forward with this by-election and won it, he can now say to his followers, he will say legitimately, that, look, this is just the establishment parties coming after us yet again. You've gone to the polls, you've made clear what your preference is going forward, and they just want another bite of the cherry. They are going to keep coming after us.
He called this because he lost the narrative. Let's be clear on that. And I think that Nigel, I think this is going to go down in infamy. I think it's a really silly thing to do. And the proof will be in the pudding on that one.
Well, of course, Nigel Farage would say that this investigation into him by the Parliamentary Standards Watchdog, Eugene, was being used as a political tool by the main political parties. We had Sarah Pochin of Reform saying that it was the kangaroo court. Then those same political parties pulling out of this by-election, leaving him to stand alone against all of these joke candidates. Has that not proved his narrative?
It doesn't really matter what the narrative is. The fact is he's got himself into a position where unscrupulous politicians can use this cudgel to throw him out of whack. If he were Prime Minister and he'd made this mistake and it hadn't been caught up now, he could have been out of action where he should be leading the country for a period of 6 weeks, because he's made this, seemingly made this big blunder in reporting donations, which any serious politician should have locked down. It's a very simple thing. No other kind of senior politician seems to be in a similar position.
So are you saying that those politicians who are pushing this narrative against Nigel Farage are unscrupulous politicians? That seemed to be what you were saying there.
I think there's two things at play. Firstly, taking big money from various investment firms, which he's done perfectly legally, but from people who aren't in the country, who all sorts of money from people who have their own political ambitions, I think needs to be brought to light. Secondly, you have to expect a lot of the lawyers in Parliament, people like Keir Starmer, to use every tool in the book to slap you down if you're trying to challenge the establishment. Now, it's kind of remarkable, I think, that we've got to this point and Reform still have not realised that. The Labour Party, the Conservative Party, the other parties are not going to play easy. They're not going to play fair. They're going to try and use every tool in the book. So you can't fall over on really small hurdles like this. It's not even a speed bump for any other party.
OK, Eugene, Philip, thank you very much. Been good sports and definitely not chickens.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, 21 minutes past 7, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom on this Friday morning.
Yes, homes have been destroyed and families forced to flee as wildfire spread across the West Midlands. Fire crews say they're dealing with extreme demand, with a child and 3 firefighters taken to hospital.
This is a large and complex incident that has occurred on one of the hottest days of the year. Our fire control team have been dealing with thousands of 999 calls.
2 people are seriously injured after a train carrying around 150 passengers derailed near Lewes in East Sussex yesterday afternoon. British Transport Police declared a major incident after 3 carriages came off the track, with passengers trapped before they were safely evacuated.
You'll be glad to know it's not going to be as warm as yesterday. Still pretty warm, though. Here's Annie Shuttleworth.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A considerably cooler day to come for many of us. Still quite hot in the south and east, but not quite as exceptionally hot as yesterday. Cloud and rains pushed in from the north and west overnight, so some outbreaks of showery rain are likely across some more north and western areas. Across many central and eastern areas, though, it's going to remain very hot and sunny throughout the day. There's a risk of some fairly heavy showers across more northwestern areas, but the showers aren't going to be quite as heavy as yesterday, and temperatures will be a little bit lower. Quite widely across parts of more western Wales, western England, temperatures a good 5 or 6 degrees cooler than yesterday. Still, though, in the low 30s in the south and east. Into this evening, showers will continue across parts of northwestern Scotland in particular. A few of these are moving into more eastern and southern areas, but I think it should stay largely dry across southern and eastern Scotland. Similar story for parts of Northern Ireland. A few showers just pushing in from the north and west, and you can see some showery rain across parts of southern England. I think it's going to be quite light and just mainly cloud when it does move in, but that is a weather front pushing eastwards. It will continue to push eastwards throughout Friday night into Saturday morning, and as that moves into the more humid air in the south and east, we could see some heavier showers across parts of southern eastern England to start the day on Saturday. So quite a humid and warm night in the south and east. Elsewhere, though, much fresher temperatures around 10 to 12 degrees for many rural areas in particular, so much more comfortable for sleeping to start the weekend. There's plenty of dry weather on the cards for this weekend across the UK, plenty of sunshine as well, and it will feel cooler than it has done lately. It will continue to see showers across more northwestern areas, quite light though, and for most of us it's going to be a dry and warm weekend with temperatures much closer to average in the mid-20s. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Now, do stay with us, still to come.
The government's
result will not eclipse Farage's wrongdoing. Nigel Farage has just spent 38 days fighting a bin.
The government says this morning's victory for Nigel Farage won't change anything. But has the Reform UK leader achieved exactly what he wanted? We're going to get into that with Deputy Political Editor of The Spectator, James Heal. That's next.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things up the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good,
because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of a matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome back. You are watching and listening to GB News Breakfast with Mark and Ellie. Now, of course, we're reacting to the result, that breaking news overnight that Nigel Farage has been returned as MP for Clacton, in which he says it's an overwhelming victory.
Well, Mr Farage refused to attend the by-election count overnight after Essex police warned him of an organised campaign to disrupt and degrade the result.
Well, we're joined now by James Heal, Deputy Political Editor at The Spectator. Very good morning to you, James Heal. What do you make of the result overnight? We're speaking to Richard Tice at the start of the programme. He was saying that it was a convincing, overwhelming win. And looking at the metrics, there's an increased vote share with a smaller turnout. This is a result, and the result that Nigel Farage wanted.
I think it's a reasonably good result for Nigel Farage. There's two pieces of evidence to suggest that. First of all, there's the fact that he has increased his overall vote share. He's got more than 1,000 votes than he did 2 years ago. And I think you can say on the turnout that it's quite legitimate in the sense that it was 43%. Unlike 38% for Aberdeen South, which was the last by-election we had a few months ago. That said, it's not, I think, as resounding as they might have liked. He won 63% of the vote. I think that some of them Reform we'd hoping to get north of 70%. And I think, therefore, that will allow some of the main parties to at least claim that he could be potentially beatable here, even though I think that those in Reform feel they've done a pretty good campaign here.
It's quite a hollow claim, though, isn't it, James? At the end of the day, they didn't stand any candidates, and it's much more difficult to get not just the electorate enthused about a by-election, but a by-election with only joke candidates other than, of course, Nigel Farage himself. He's done pretty well.
Yeah, and I think that this has been probably the best night in politics Count Binface is ever going to have, isn't it? I also note that Nigel Farage not turning up to the count, and that appears to be the first time that a victor of a by-election has not appeared since Bobby Sands some 45 years ago, and that was in very different circumstances. I think you've got to look at the kind of wider picture of why Farage did this. He did this because of the open investigation into him about the £5 million gift from Christopher Harborne, and also concerns that he was going to face a second investigation over support that was allegedly given to him in the run-up to the 2024 election. He hopes to have now warded off the second one. Only time will tell. And he hopes that he sent a message on the first point about Christopher Harborne. So we'll see. I mean, I think that he can claim fairly plausibly that he spent the last 6 weeks or so getting data, building up support base there. He can say that. And I suppose the question is really, Mark, he had a bad hand. He had to play it as best as he could. Given everything that we knew in July, just last month, how did he get out of this one? He thinks he's done that today. He's got a bit more momentum going. But I agree that it's not the sort of great victory that some in the party would like to portray it as.
Do you think that Nigel Farage has emerged weaker or stronger as a result of this by-election? Because in terms of what Nigel Farage would say, that this has been, the investigation into him was used as a political tool, that this is proof of the uniparty in action. Well, this has proved his point, has it not, that he was left there to fight against a bin and joke candidates because no other political party would stand?
I think that it's going to be too soon to tell if he's strong or weaker. I mean, my overall assessment is he's marginally stronger as opposed to that position he was in 6-7 weeks ago. As I say, he was in a bit of a hole last month, partly of his own making, you can say, with this allegations around Christopher Harborne, etc. How did he get out of it? And he chose to do that by kind of resetting the political dial on it. I think that there were no good options at that time, but I think that he also had 6 weeks now of thousands of reform people going to Clacton, having one-on-one conversation with the voters. And I certainly think that, albeit in this quite, in some ways, unrepresentative seat, Clacton, had a 73% leave vote. It has the second fewest number of graduates in the country. It's not the country, but in this seat, it does seem that Farage has probably strengthened his position over the past 6 weeks or so.
Well, and just finally on that point, not only strengthened his position, but really sort of kicked the legs from under his opponents. Surely they cannot go back to that same electorate and try to call another by-election when they didn't stand any candidates this time round.
I think that would be an argument some in Clacton feel. I think, having been there myself, there was a slight sense of frustration. I think that it's quite an interesting dynamic. Part of the national picture is obviously focused on Farage, but also there's the local one. And locally, I think some people felt that, hang on a sec, they're trying to score a national point. They're not standing people here. Supposedly they care about us. And there was a bit of frustration and irritation there. I'd also make the point about local grassroots strength. And I think the Tory association has been a bit depleted over the past few years. So we'll wait to see. There might be another by-election. Farage, I think, can claim he might be in a slightly stronger position now than he was 6 weeks ago.
OK, James Hill, good to see you as always. Thank you very much for joining us on GB News Breakfast.
Thanks, James. OK, time for the Great British Giveaway now. Your chance to win £60,000 and a gold bar. Here's all your details.
Welcome to Orla Santi by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating a golden summer. And you could be enjoying a golden year with an incredible £60,000 to be won. That's tax-free cash that you'll get to spend on anything you like. What would you do with it? You could relax knowing that we've got those day-to-day financial pressures sorted. Or find yourself celebrating in the lap of five-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Spritzeria. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 that you can keep or gift to a loved one. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, we'll be heading back to Clacton to hear from our political editor on reaction to that news that Nigel Farage has returned as Clacton's MP. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Mark and Ellie.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 4 and 3 in Southampton West. The M40 is closed between junctions 10 and 9 in Bicester. The M56 westbound has an obstruction at junction 5 in by Manchester Airport. In Scotland, the A78 between Dunlop Street and A8 Ratho Street is closed in both directions. Across Wales, the A470 from Doldolod to Rhayader is closed. And on the trains, Southern services have major disruption between Lewes and Haywards Heath and between Three Bridges and Horsham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Costello. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 7:38. Let's head straight back to Clacton, shall we? Where our GB News political editor Christopher Hope is there for us. Morning, Chris. What a night.
What a night, yeah. I've been to many of these by-elections and covered them for your show, Ellie and Mark, and it does seem extraordinary. I often ask myself, what has changed after these by-elections? Arguably, not much has changed. 38 days out of Parliament for Nigel Farage since he quit as MP for Clacton, saying he's going to put his future in politics at the hands of the people of Clacton. He's been returned last night, the vote, of course, that result in the past hour and a half, with 1,000 more votes than he got back in July 2024. All other candidates lost their deposit. That means that they won't get the money back from the £500 they spent to stand in this by-election. Apart from one, a person or a character called Count Binface, a self-styled intergalactic warrior. He won more than 9,000 votes in this by-election. That's a third of the number given to Nigel Farage. Binface is the best performing novelty candidate ever, 6 times higher than Screaming Lord Sutch back in 1994. Nigel Farage, he didn't attend the count this morning. He stayed away. He said that he had some evidence or some suggestion, maybe from police, that he could be under threat. There could be some threat to him, and of course they're very, very worried about that in the week that the party or the family that they've been mourning Anne Widdecombe, and of course her funeral was held earlier this week. So that's why they say they weren't there. Essex Police said there was no guidance for any candidate in the by-election not to attend the count. It seems to me, reading between the lines, there could be somewhere in between. It may well be that Nigel Farage heard suggestions that within the count, people who were already there, who had been security cleared, may have tried to make a statement, heckle, shout at Farage, maybe get round him, maybe make it slightly undignified for him. Certainly, you can imagine that for him to be photographed with those 33 other candidates, including a guy with a bin on his head and other candidates with large top hats and looking a bit ridiculous, that would have undermined Nigel Farage's attempt to say, I can be next Prime Minister.
Well, To be honest, you can't really blame Nigel Farage. He may well have got, as he says, the advice from the police, but just the optics of it. We see in the Commons, Christopher, you watch this all the time, so-called professional MPs, the way they berate and shout Nigel Farage down anytime he tries to stand up and ask a question or make a point. So it's obvious, isn't it, that that is exactly, and worse, what was going to happen at the declaration there.
Yes, it might seem obvious. All I would say, Mark, is as a journalist reporter, we haven't had it confirmed from Reform UK, but you can imagine they'll look at it and go, well, we've won this. I mean, when he called the by-election, Nigel Farage fully expected all the other parties to also join him in the battle for his political future. That hasn't happened. He has won the seat with 1,000 more votes. He could well be back here having the same by-election again, because he's under investigation by Commons authorities over a £5 million gift from Christopher Harborne, who's a cryptocurrency billionaire in Thailand. He didn't declare that. Now, in an interview with me at 1 a.m. this morning at Farage Fest, this event he held near the Count, he did say he's done nothing wrong, nothing illegal. He may have filled a piece of paper in wrongly. So that, to me, was going towards slightly going, well, is he now admitting that he hadn't declared something that he should have done in the House of Commons? And how will that be viewed by this Standards Committee that's investigating him? If they found that is a serious breach of rules and he's banned for more than, I think, 10 days in the House of Commons as an MP, that would trigger a referendum of the people here in Clacton. If if they vote to have another by-election, there will be another by-election. Another £250,000 of our money will be spent. But it looks like, I mean, talking to this team last night before I go, Mark and Ellie, they were saying they've got so much data now, they've got all this data of where their supporters are, they'll find it even easier, I think, to fight this by-election next time. But they may have some more stiffer competition from actual proper candidates from the other main political parties.
Okay, Christopher Hope, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Chris. Well, still to come on the programme, a major incident has been declared in the West Midlands after a wildfire broke out, causing widespread destruction to local housing in the area as well.
Yeah, we're going to go through that and much more in the papers with Nigel Nelson and Claire Pearce. All morning, you two. Chat to you in just a second.
But first, your forecast for your top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. The hot weather is not just restricted to the UK at the moment. Much of Western Europe are under an extreme heat wave. And also some thundery downpours. Across the Canary Islands, though, it's much more reasonable temperatures in the 30s here with plenty of sunshine. Outbreaks of heavy rain affecting more higher ground parts of the Pyrenees as well as the Alps, seeing intense thunderstorms over the next few days. But more coastal areas should remain dry and bright with plenty of sunshine. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Bev Turner, why is Britain worth fighting for and celebrating?
Well, having spent, nearly a year now in America, I'm always interested to see what other people think about the UK. Americans always talk to me about our history. When President Trump had the state visit, he obviously went away and thought everything that King Charles has, he wants a bit of that, a new ballroom, etc. And I think personally, for me, it's about we are the mother of all parliaments. So that history is real, law, the rule of law, and also our sense of humour.
And I tell you one of the things I think is so great about Britain, and they get a lot of flack, but I think our royal family is fantastic. When I saw that image of the Queen earlier, I had a lump in my throat, because we all miss her, don't we?
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Nursery rhymes are sexist and they are reinforcing gender stereotypes. This is according to academics in Pakistan. They've issued this warning to parents, saying that some nursery rhymes could reinforce gender stereotypes and they need to be cautious about singing them to their children.
It is
Absolutely absurd.
It's pretty bonkers.
It's absurd. Which one's the most sexist one?
So Jack and Jill went up the hill is problematic because it places the male character first.
That's because...
symbolising leadership.
Jill rhymes with hill and Jack doesn't. What do these academics in Pakistan not understand?
No, it's a fantastic point. Also, Little Miss Muffet in Little Bo Peep portrays femininity as emotionally weak because a spider frightens her.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And the fact that she doesn't know where to find them implies confusion and dependence.
The People's Channel. GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
British engineering giant JCB's bid to set a world hydrogen land speed record is surging ahead in Utah, isn't it?
Yeah, the company unveiled its aim to set the record with its JCB Hydromax car.
Well, Ben Leo, our GB News chief US correspondent, had the time of his life, didn't he? And he sent this report from Utah.
Welcome to one of the flattest places on Earth. GB News is here at the Bonneville Salt Plains in the great state of Utah in America to witness British engineering history. Later today, JCB is bidding to break the hydrogen-powered land speed record in a car of their own making for the first time in nearly 20 years.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 7:47. Let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages on this Friday morning.
The Telegraph reports that China is funding Palestine marches.
The Times' top story this morning, houses burn and trains derail on the UK's hottest day.
The Guardian, universities fear financial turmoil amid slump in overseas students.
The Daily Mail reports on fires caused by the latest heat wave.
Right, well, joining us now, take a look at really the other news, just taking a little break from politics for the moment, are the political commentator Nigel Nelson and former Conservative advisor, the wonderful Claire Pearson. Claire, these scenes from Stourbridge in the West Midlands last night, absolutely horrific, the way in which those grass fires just spread to the local housing in that estate.
To look at the footage, it must be absolutely terrifying if you're nearby. The speed that they move at, the direction of the wind, and the houses that have been lost. So those are people's lives have been turned upside down because of this. And these aren't the first wildfires that we've seen in the country. This is now becoming a pretty much weekly occurrence. I mean, it is horrific when you look at the footage. I feel incredibly sorry for those individuals that have lost everything. And well done to the fire service for being there and being on duty and doing exactly what they need to do. They must be completely overwhelmed with the amount of response they have to give. And I've been caught up. We were in Rhodes a couple of years ago and got caught up in wildfires over there. And it is absolutely frightening to watch and how it comes towards you. And there is absolutely nothing you can do. And it is terrifying. But at least in other countries, they have those planes that go and scoop the water up. And I think this country now needs to look at what we're funding, helicopters, planes. If we're going to have more of this weather, we need to look at how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah. Nigel, the region's fire chief has been speaking, saying the devastation is extensive. 6 family homes have been destroyed. It's just devastating.
It is. I mean, it's an absolute tragedy. And as Claire's just said, awful for the people who live there. I think probably we're going to get used to this because this is going to be the way things will carry on. And Claire's absolutely right. I mean, when we were caught in the wildfires in Rhodes, it was terrifying. We escaped with minutes to spare before we were trapped. So we've got to actually prepare for this kind of weather. We need the right firefighting equipment for it. We've had fires in the New Forest. If we had the aircraft that could drop the water, that may help. But, I mean, suddenly we're in a different world. I mean, there's no question climate change is responsible for this, and it's going to get worse rather than better.
Well, Claire, just let's move away from the topic of these wildfires at the moment and on to the issue that continues to cause a great deal of concern, and that is with regard to the potential release of two of the killers of PC Andrew Harper. And that petition calling for a debate on this issue in Parliament has now reached almost 1 million.
And I'm not surprised. I think the public are absolutely gobsmacked that these people could be let out early in the first place. I mean, it was absolutely horrific. No contrition shown by the people involved with this, and PC Andrew Harper's family are quite rightly horrified that these people could be out early and be back on the streets. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that the public have joined this petition, and fair play to them. I hope that it does come before Parliament very quickly in the new session when we come back in September, because I think it is really important. The whole early release scheme is a complete and utter mess. I think the new Prime Minister has got himself into a really sticky situation by not entirely understanding what he wants to do with this. He'd like to let some people out so that there is space in the prison estate. But when you look at the kind of people that you're going to then let out into public, I think he will have a different opinion on it, and the public have already told him we're not putting up with it.
Well, we have just refreshed that change.org page. I'm going to do it again on my laptop now. 999,038 signatures, Nigel.
So it's about to go above 1 million very, very shortly, yeah. I mean, the Prime Minister does know what he wants to do about it. It's just, this is incredibly complex. So, you've got to get prisoners out of prisons before the whole system collapses. So that's the aim. Then you've got to find a way of drawing a line so you can keep the killers of PC Harper behind bars. And that's where the tricky bit comes. What you can't do is make an exception for this particular case. There are a load of horrific cases out there. There are other people who are terrified of people coming out. So it is all about how you draw the line. Now, if Alex Norris, the Justice Secretary, can achieve that by freeing up places in women's prisons for men, if you could actually get more foreign national offenders deported, which is difficult and it would take time, that would be fine. If you can get those on indefinite sentences who are not a danger out of prison, that might help. But it is a matter of where you draw the line.
But all of that sounds like common sense, doesn't it? But where has the long-term planning been? We've been at crisis point for 2 years now. We've been hearing about this since July. Longer, yes. But since this government came in, we've been talking about this prisons crisis, and there's been talk of running out of space by autumn, now running out of space by spring. Something needs to be done, and fast.
Yes, and things are being done, but you're absolutely right, probably not quick enough. 3,000 new prison places are already on stream.
OK. Nigel, Claire, thank you very much. You'll be back with us in about 45 minutes' time. Do stay with us. 2 people seriously injured after a train carrying around 150 passengers derailed in East Sussex. Will be live in Lewis shortly. That's after your weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A considerably cooler day to come for many of us. Still quite hot in the south and east, but not quite as exceptionally hot as yesterday. Cloud and rains pushed in from the north and west overnight, so some outbreaks of showery rain are likely across some more north and western areas. Across many central and eastern areas, though, it's going to remain very hot and sunny throughout the day. There's a risk of some fairly heavy showers across more northwestern areas, but the showers aren't going to be quite as heavy as yesterday, and temperatures will be a little bit lower. Quite widely across parts of more western Wales, western England, temperatures a good 5 or 6 degrees cooler than yesterday. Still, though, in the low 30s in the south and east. Into this evening, showers will continue across parts of northwestern Scotland in particular. A few of these are moving into more eastern and southern areas, but I think it should stay largely dry across southern and eastern Scotland. Similar story for parts of Northern Ireland. A few showers just pushing in from the north and west. And you can see some showery rain across parts of southern England. I think it's going to be quite light and just mainly cloud when it does move in. But that is a weather front pushing eastwards. It will continue to push eastwards throughout Friday night into Saturday morning. And as that moves into the more humid air in the south and east, we could see some heavier showers across parts of southern eastern England to start the day on Saturday. So quite a humid and warm night in the south and east. Elsewhere, though, much fresher temperatures around 10 to 12 degrees for many rural areas in particular. So much more comfortable for sleeping to start the weekend. There's plenty of dry weather on the cards for this weekend across the UK, plenty of sunshine as well, and it will feel cooler than it has done lately. It will continue to see showers across more northwestern areas, quite light though, and for most of us it's going to be a dry and warm weekend with temperatures much closer to average in the mid-20s. Bye-bye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 5 and 4 in Southampton. The M40 is closed between junctions 10 and 9 in Bicester. The M11 southbound has an incident at junction 14 in Girton. In Scotland, the A830 is closed at Beesdale in both directions. Across Wales, the A470 from Doldolod to Rhyadr is closed. And on the trains, East Midlands railway services may be affected by hot weather, with disruption on various routes, while southern services face major disruption between Lewes and Haywards Heath and between Three Bridges and Horsham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes. You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner. First of all, we want to give you £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Nigel Farage returns as a Member of Parliament, winning the Clacton by-election with over 22,000 votes.
Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
Well, the Reform UK leader did not attend the count, saying that the police warned of an organised plot to disrupt the declaration and humiliate him on stage.
Having won a resounding victory, a ringing endorsement of all that I've tried to fight for and you try to fight for, and be demeaned and humiliated by nobodies, and I will not, sadly, be attending the count.
Well, Count Binface came second with over 9,000 votes following a boycott from the other major parties, a move that Deputy Leader of Reform UK Richard Tice branded cowardly.
They're the ones who had the chance to have a contest against Nigel, and they're the ones who bottled it. They're like sort of cowardly chickens.
Well, taking to social media a little earlier, the Reform leader said the result in Clacton speaks for itself.
Nigel Farage is gone to bed. He's not doing any more press or media today. He's back as the MP for Clacton after a 38-day break, after battling with Count Binface. He wants this row about the £5 million gift to be put to bed. His opponents will say otherwise.
This is a large and complex incident that has occurred on one of the hottest days of the year. Our fire control team have been dealing with thousands of 999 calls.
Firefighters battled to bring huge grass wildfires in Stourbridge under control as extensive devastation spreads to multiple homes in the West Midlands.
Well, there were almost apocalyptic scenes yesterday as fire services across the West Midlands tried to battle fires. Here in Stourbridge, at least 6 houses have been destroyed, acres of grassland. As the West Midlands Fire Service confirmed this morning, they're still tactically working to control some of them.
Elsewhere, 2 people are severely injured after a train carrying around 150 passengers derailed near Lewes in East Sussex as rail bosses announced an investigation into the cause of yesterday's incident.
Good morning. Yesterday was exceptionally hot. Today will be much cooler for most areas, though still quite warm in the south and east. I'll have all the details for you a little later on.
Good morning. It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Mark White. A very warm welcome to GB News Breakfast.
Breaking news in the past few moments that a petition calling on the government to stop the early release of PC Andrew Harper's killers has now hit 1 million signatures.
Yeah, public pressure has been growing since it emerged Jesse Cole and Albert Bowers, 2 of PC Harper's 3 killers, could be free as early as next year under measures designed to ease prison overcrowding.
Well, if the government wasn't already aware, that is proof right there, isn't it, of the strength of public feeling about this. They will remember the 2 faces. You were there, weren't you, in court? Yeah. Those 2 individuals who were laughing and sneering and jeering at the cameras in court, thinking that they wouldn't ever be shown. But the public has seen them and they are outraged that they could be released early. 3 little scumbags, without a doubt, not a shred of regret or contrition for what they did, ending this young police officer's life, devastating his family, his poor widow, Lissy, his mother, who've been campaigning ever since to get a change in the law, which they were successful at, ensuring that anyone who is involved in the death of an emergency service worker is sentenced to life imprisonment. And of course, they don't want to countenance any suggestion that 2 of those 3 killers should be released from jail early. And it was interesting, Ellie, we were talking to Nigel Nelson and Claire Pearsall just a short time ago about where the sort of the government is in terms of what it has to do, and Nigel saying, you know, that there has to be a move to release people, but I honestly don't think that's where the great British public are on this issue. And I think that's indicative from this petition, actually, don't you? They don't want to see dangerous people, sex offenders and other offenders, just everyday criminals, those that are responsible for the vast majority of crime, the recidivists that go and rob the corner store or steal your mobile phone to feed their drugs habits. We're going to see very significant increases in crime related to this early release programme. There was new analysis last week, wasn't there? 90,000 new crimes as a result of this early release programme.
I would say at least. So I think most of the people in this country would want to see the foreign national offenders booted out of this country. If there's 2 in a cell, make it 3 or 4 in a cell.
Yeah, absolutely. Nightingale prisons. Surely there's got to be a better solution to letting dangerous people out of prison early. So that breaking news in the past few moments that the petition for PC Andrew Harper's killers to remain in prison has now hit over 1 million signatures. The Prime Minister saying he's feeling increasingly confident that he can keep them behind bars. He has tasked the Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, with the task of keeping them in prison. Some saying that Alex Norris has been left as the scapegoat here. But any updates on this, of course, we'll keep across it for you here on GB News.
I do think the government have made a complete pig's ear of this. It's just gone on and on and on, but here you are. OK, to our top story now, and Nigel Farage has been re-elected as Clacton MP in what he says is an overwhelming victory.
Farage, Nigel, Reform UK, 22,239. And I therefore do hereby declare that Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
Well, Mr Farage didn't attend the by-election count overnight. It's after Essex Police warned him of an organised campaign to disrupt and degrade the result.
Well, we're joined by the Conservative Party chairman, Kevin Holland-Rake. Kevin, good morning to you. In terms of Nigel Farage's victory, given it's a by-election, given that you guys didn't put any candidates up, it's a pretty emphatic victory for the Reform leader, isn't it?
Well, the reality is it was a fake by-election, wasn't it? And the by-election was there to try and, for Nigel Farage, to try and avoid the scrutiny of a £5 million donation gift, whatever it was, that he received in a period that he should have declared it. The parliamentary rules are very clear. I can't say too much about that because I'm one of the complainants, because Parliament regulates itself, so it requires fellow members of Parliament to write to the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner to ask him to undertake an investigation. That's what was happening. Nigel Farage has been held to the same standard as everybody else. Those rules have been in place for 10 years. It's not some kind of conspiracy to catch Nigel Farage out. He received this £5 million, which he accepts and accepted. And that investigation was underway, and Nigel Farage, instead of submitting himself to the same process as everybody else, decided to try and distract and deflect from that by calling a by-election. We thought that was wrong. We didn't want to legitimise a by-election by standing candidates against him in this situation. The Parliamentary Standards Commissioner must now continue his investigation. And of course, Nigel Farage, like anybody else, should accept the results of that investigation.
Kevin Holland-Rake, you've just said there that you're a claimant in this investigation. Nigel Farage has said that this investigation by the complainant, into this parliamentary standards watchdog is being used as a political tool by the Uni Party. And it's the very same Uni Party, he would say, that refused to stand in this by-election. Is this just proof of the Uni Party in action? Is it proof of the establishment versus Nigel Farage?
Oh, one thing I agree with Nigel Farage on is there should not be two-tier justice in any part of our country, including Parliament. The rules are very clear, is that if there are complaints against you that the Parliamentary Standards Commission decides to investigate, there are rules around those things. Those rules that cover this £5 million gift, donation, whatever it was, are there to protect against conflict of interest, that parliamentarians can't accept monies without explaining where those monies have come from so people can understand their potential motivations. That's where those rules are there. I want to see a single tier of justice across the country, including in Parliament. That's what this is all about. By that process, what could happen down the line is that there's potential a by-election comes if Nigel Farage is shown to have broken the rules and the Committee on Standards decide that's serious enough, then there could effectively be at some point another by-election. Of course, we would stand a candidate against Nigel Farage if he decides to stand in those situations. This isn't about us trying to manipulate the rules. This is about Nigel Farage trying to avoid scrutiny over what are very serious allegations about a huge donation of £5 million.
But why would you push for another by-election? Nigel Farage is right on this point, isn't he? You had your opportunity here to stand candidates against him. Now to go back to the electorate of Clacton again and demand that they take part in another by-election, they are just going to see you as being part of an establishment conspiracy.
Well, that's a nonsensical argument. I mean, this is a £5 million personal donation. This didn't go to Reform. It went into Nigel Farage's bank account. There has to be checks and balances around that, and there are. The public would want to see that, of course. And the checks and balances are there's a proper process within Parliament to look at those kind of things and see if there's been wrongdoing. Now, it's Nigel Farage who made the choice to have a by-election to try and avoid that process, or delay or deflect from it, or whatever he was doing, and decided he didn't want to be judged by the same standards as everybody else. He wanted the people to be his judge. And that's a classic tactic, of course, for people trying to avoid scrutiny. That cannot happen. Nigel Farage must be held to the same standards as everybody else in Parliament. That's what all this is about. His choice to spend £250,000 of taxpayers' money on a by-election, a fake by-election. There'll be, if is proven of wrongdoing, then there'll be potentially another by-election down the track. If he's not, of course, if he's exonerated, well, we can all move on, and that's what could have happened in the first place.
Just before we let you go this morning, Kevin Holland-Ray, just want your reaction to this breaking news in the past few minutes that petition to stop the early release of the killers of PC Andrew Harper being released from jail, that has hit over 1 million signatures, which is proof of the strength of public feeling about all of this. Does the release of those two killers need to be blocked, and what needs to be done to solve this prisons crisis? Of course, the government would say that this is in large part due to your dire inheritance and not building enough prison spaces.
Yes, it needs to be blocked. My colleagues Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, and Nick Timothy, the Shadow Justice Secretary, have written to the Prime Minister to say these releases must be blocked. Also must be blocked are serious sexual offenders and people involved in grooming gangs. Those people who are due to be released, they're due to be released early September. That should be blocked. There are many things that can happen that we'll work with the government on to be able to make sure they don't need to be released, such as building more prisons. You mentioned a few minutes ago Nightingale prisons. We built the hospitals. Why can't we build prisons in the same way? We could take the Swedish approach and rent space in Estonia, for example, in jails in Estonia or other foreign countries. Or indeed, we could deport many of the 10,000 foreign national offenders in our jails right now to create spaces to make sure these kind of evil people are locked up and kept behind bars until they've served their sentence.
Well, why not take the approach of releasing none of them before they absolutely have to be released? Because whoever you release is going to impact communities, isn't it? The recidivists back out there burgling homes and robbing shops and nicking mobile phones to feed their drug habit. It's all going to impact on communities right across the country.
Well, I agree with that entirely. And I pointed out some ways we can create the space to do that. You know, we extended the period of time people had to serve in jail. It used to be you had to serve 50% of your sentence. We increased that to 2/3 of the sentence for certain offences, quite rightly, to make sure we did exactly what you said, which is making sure people who commit these serious crimes are locked up and held behind bars until they've served their sentence, quite rightly.
Holland-Ray, thank you very much for your time this morning on GB News Breakfast.
OK, we're going to cross back to Clacton now, where our political editor, Christopher Hope, is. Oh, it's looking beautiful there this morning, Christopher. I'm sure you must be tired, but invigorated by the political fight you just witnessed.
Yes, I've been talking to senior people in Reform in the past few minutes, asking about Nigel Farage. Apparently he is, quote, spent and is doing no more appearances in front of the press today. We'll see him back in Westminster on Monday with a big announcement, we expect, with Robert Jenrick, the party's finance spokesman. It's quite interesting about talking with strategists in Reform about this result. They point out that with no jeopardy in a by-election, and let's be frank, Nigel Farage was never going to lose this by-election, often that makes it harder to get the vote out. So the fact that they got 1,000 more votes than they got back in July 2024 indicates, they would say, the popularity of Nigel Farage locally, cementing the support for him, of course, as the MP here. And they say to me, I think it's quite interesting, this line, they said that there was no jeopardy, and they said if we had got fewer votes than in 2024, you'd be crucifying us right now, but we didn't, and you can't. So they're quite clear. They believe that by increasing the votes cast for Nigel Farage since that July 2024 election, when Farage was returned as an MP at the 8th time of asking, that is a big win for him. That shows his importance and support locally. Of course, the issues haven't gone away for Nigel Farage. He goes back to Parliament, where this inquiry restarts into whether he should declare this £5 million gift from Christopher Harborne, the crypto billionaire. Nigel Farage at 1 a.m. this morning gave an interview to me for GB News at the Farage Fest event. He did say a couple of times, if I didn't fill a piece of paper in rightly, or as the critics say, well, judge me on that. But he made very clear nothing illegal done there. But I just wonder whether he's going towards almost admitting, maybe if the rules are right, I should have declared that. And that may lead, of course, to him being found to have broken Commons rules. That could lead, of course, if he's banned for more than 10 days to Parliament, a petition for another by-election, and we could be here all over again before Christmas. But Nigel Farage would say, don't waste £250,000 on another by-election. I increased my votes by 1,000 when there's no jeopardy. I had very little chance of losing. Let's all move on, can't we?
Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Now let's have a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom on this Friday morning.
Homes have been destroyed and families forced to flee as wildfire spread across the West Midlands. Well, fire crews say they're dealing with extreme demand, with a child and 3 firefighters taken to hospital.
2 people are seriously injured after a train carrying around 150 passengers derailed near Lewes in East Sussex yesterday afternoon. British Transport Police declared a major incident after 3 carriages came off the track, with passengers trapped before they were safely cut out and evacuated.
Campaigners are warning that plans to move 1,200 male asylum seekers into a Yorkshire village are unsuitable. The government wants to use RAF Linton-on-Ouse as one of 3 disused military sites for asylum accommodation.
And we should say that Anna Riley is going to be live from Linton-on-Ouse just after 9:15 this morning, so don't miss that.
Well, still to come, homes have been destroyed. Actually, I think we're going to go to the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A considerably cooler day to come for many of us. Still quite hot in the south and east, but not quite as exceptionally hot as yesterday. Cloud and rains pushed in from the north and west overnight, so some outbreaks of showery rain are likely across some more north and western areas. Across many central and eastern areas, though, it's going to remain very hot and sunny throughout the day. There's a risk of some fairly heavy showers across more northwestern areas, but the showers aren't going to be quite as heavy as yesterday, and temperatures will be a little bit lower. Quite widely across parts of more western Wales, western England, temperatures a good 5 or 6 degrees cooler than yesterday. Still, though, in the low 30s in the south and east. Into this evening, showers will continue across parts of northwestern Scotland in particular. A few of these are moving into more eastern and southern areas, but I think it should stay largely dry across southern and eastern Scotland. Similar story for parts of Northern Ireland. A few showers just pushing in from the north and west, and you can see some showery rain across parts of southern England. I think it's going to be quite light and just mainly cloud when it does move in, but that is a weather front pushing eastwards. It will continue to push eastwards throughout Friday night into Saturday morning, and as that moves into the more humid air in the south and east, we could see some heavier showers across parts of southern eastern England to start the day on Saturday. So quite a humid and warm night in the south and east. Elsewhere, though, Much fresher, temperatures around 10 to 12 degrees for many rural areas in particular, so much more comfortable for sleeping to start the weekend. There's plenty of dry weather on the cards for this weekend across the UK, plenty of sunshine as well, and it will feel cooler than it has done lately. It will continue to see showers across more northwestern areas, quite light though, and for most of us it's going to be a dry and warm weekend with temperatures much closer to average in the mid-20s. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, homes have been destroyed and families have been forced to flee. It's as wildfires have spread across the West Midlands. We're going to be going live to Stourbridge next.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Costello. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back. It's 24 minutes past 8. Now, a major incident has been declared in the West Midlands after a wildfire broke out, causing what has been described as apocalyptic scenes.
Yes, police, fire crews and ambulances were called to Stourbridge after a large plume of smoke was initially reported.
Well, the fire is believed to then have spread to around 40 acres, causing multiple homes to burn down and forcing residents to evacuate.
Well, the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, said he was in touch with local leaders in the West Midlands as firefighters continue to bring wildfires in the region under control.
Well, GB News national reporter Jack Carson is at the epicentre of what was an absolutely horrific event yesterday evening. Jack, how are things this morning?
Well, you can certainly still smell the smoke in the air here. I mean, the West Midlands Chief Fire Officer Simon Tuhill has described the damage across the entire West Midlands as extensive devastation. They were receiving thousands of 999 calls at one point as pockets of fire broke out and quickly spread across this entire region. But here in Stourbridge, believing that fires started in grassland nearby, acres of that burned. The fire service saying thanks to tinder-like conditions allowing that fire to spread quickly, and we know that at least 6 houses have been burnt out completely, effectively to shells overnight, as West Midlands Fire Service and other fire services across the region still battle fires this morning to try and ensure that hotspots don't spread and cause more devastation that they already have. Take a look at a clip of some of the scenes that we saw last night.
Okay, I've got to get out of here now. I've got to go. So that's it. That's the house going up.
Well, residents talked about how panicked they were, about how it was almost a perfect storm because of how dry, of course, all of the grass has been with no rain here in this region for some weeks. The fire service saying that their control team have been dealing with those 999 calls, trying to coordinate attendance and other operational incidents across the region. One resident, as I said, called it a perfect disaster, saying that the black smoke was coming from the fields, and then they saw the fire coming onto the driveways and fences of the first house. They said the wind picked up so strong it was fueling the flames and the perfect storm. Multiple people have been taken to hospital. That was confirmed by the ambulance service yesterday. We know 2 people were taken, 3 double crewed ambulances and the hazardous area response team came here, but 2 people were ended up taken to hospital after 6 people were treated by crews at the scene. Earlier on in the day, we know that 3 firefighters and a child had also been taken to hospital because of injuries and smoke inhalation caused by this. The Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has said it is awful to see homes and communities hit by fires across the country. He says his thoughts are with everyone affected, particularly those that have been injured or forced from their homes. And this morning already there have been lots of residents coming asking to the police, to the cordon that you'll be able to see behind me, can they get to their house? Can they see the damage? Can a lot of them find their animals, their dogs, their cats? That seems to be so much of the concern this morning, making sure that their own pets and animals are okay and have been able to survive the devastation. As you were saying, Mark, 40 acres at least we know of grassland completely burnt out and destroyed. But one thing the fire service have said as they say they continue to tackle fires and pockets across the region is the community response, how they've been taken aback by this. There have been people delivering water here, opening their homes, giving lifts to people to be able to find shelter, taken to the local community centre. There has been a whole real kind of outpouring of support from this community to make sure everyone could be okay. And as I said this morning, the West Midlands Fire Service say they are tactically working across several sites in Stourbridge, including trying to deal with hotspots and extinguish them as necessary.
Jack, just a quick final point. They've been described widely, I should say, as wildfires, yet we know that quite a number of these blazes have been started deliberately. Any indication as to what was behind what sparked the blaze in Stourbridge?
So the latest we've got on that is what the West Midlands Fire Chief Simon Tuhill said last night. He said that an investigation would be carried out with police colleagues and their special fire investigation team. He confirmed that they think at that moment, which was last night, that it started not in one of the homes and spread to the fields, but rather the other way round, that it started in the grassland and then into the homes. But in terms of the physical ignition, what started those fires in the first place, we've had no confirmation or indication yet about what line of inquiries this fire investigation team and the police might be heading down.
And thanks for bringing us that update there from Stourbridge. We'll be back with you in the next hour.
Thanks. I do think that, you know, quite a lot, it's now coming to light that so many of these wildfires are being started deliberately for whatever sick reason.
It is sick.
You know, with the absolute devastation that can cause, as we've seen in Stourbridge.
Now, 8:30. If you are travelling to work this morning, here's your traffic and travel update.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed at Junction 2 in Romsey due to fire. The M4 eastbound is affected by a collision on the slip road at Junction 3 in Hayes. The M25 anti-clockwise has a stranded vehicle between junctions 25 and 24 in Potters Bar. The M40 is closed between junctions 10 and 9 in Bicester. In Scotland, the M8 eastbound has 2 lanes restricted between junctions 19 and 18 at Charing Cross. Across Wales, the A470 from Doldolod to Rhayader is closed. And on the trains, Southern services face major disruption between Lewis and Haywards Heath, with no trains between Three Bridges and Horsham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Well, time now for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win £60,000 and a gold bar, which is worth £5,000. Although we've been doing some checking, and of course, gold does increase often. So we think it might be up to about £5,500 now. So definitely
it's a good
worth
prize, isn't it? Here are all of the details that you need.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes.
You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner and join our exclusive list of giveaway champions.
First of all, we want to give you a ton of tax-free cash.
£60,000 in tax-free cash that you could use however you like. Treat your family, treat your friends,
or treat yourself to a luxury 5-star holiday somewhere like here, all as Santi by Domes Resorts.
Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, we'll have the latest from Clacton this morning as Nigel Farage returns as their MP. But has he achieved what he wanted to through this by-election? We're going to be discussing that next.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 8:36. Let's return to Clacton now, shall we, where Nigel Farage has been re-elected as their MP. Let's speak to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who is there for us with Clacton looking beautiful there behind you this morning. Christopher, I wonder how the people of Clacton feel about all of this. Chris, how do they feel about all of the major political parties pulling out? Do they feel forgotten about by Westminster? Do they feel as though the Westminster elite don't care about them? And how are they feeling as well about this potential of a second by-election? Because that seems to be the mood music coming from the other major political parties.
Yes. Well, Ellie, I daren't tell them there could be a second one of these in a few months' time. I think that would tip them over the edge here in Clacton. They're a bit sick of all of this democracy, all of these candidates. What I was struck about by talking to someone last night, who was actually a Reform voter, they said, was they were quite annoyed that all the other candidates were saying, don't vote for Farage, kick Farage out. So all the other candidates were quite a negative reason to vote, whereas Farage, by his own account, was vote for me, send a message to Parliament. So I think Farage had what he would argue was a positive message to send a message back to the Westminster establishment, while all the other candidates were almost mocking him and trying to do a negative reason to vote. I think that seems to have cut through. But I think people on the front here, they're asking me who won last night. And it is clear that Farage got 1,000 more votes than in July 2024 the general election. His team say that is a win because it's quite hard to get people to vote for you when there's no real jeopardy. They admit that with all the main parties not standing, he was never going to lose this. The only way of having a bad day was getting fewer votes than he had in July 2024. And I think that's why a party was put on last night called Farage Fest. And that's why Nigel Farage seems so relieved about this and almost wanted to thank all those supporters at this rather lavish event, which they paid a certain amount for, but basically the event was covered by party funds. He was saying thank you, that he has saved face by increasing the votes for him. He didn't turn up for the Clacton count result 2 hours ago or so. Reform UK tell us that the Essex Police were in touch with them yesterday, and they felt that was enough reason not to attend. Essex Police say they didn't tell anyone not to attend, and for me it looks like the truth lies somewhere in between. The Essex Police were concerned about something. Maybe someone would have disrupted any speech given by Nigel Farage. Maybe one of the other many candidates, some of them wearing masks, could have caused a moment to embarrass Nigel Farage, and he didn't want that to happen, didn't want to give them that chance to do that, so didn't turn up. Of course, he goes now back to Parliament, so it sits again on the 2nd of September. The inquiry starts again, and recommences. It's only been paused into this £5 million donation, or the £5 million gift, this gift that Christopher Harborne, that wasn't declared. in the interview that I spoke with Farage at 1 a.m. this morning, he said then that maybe I didn't fill a piece of paper in right. So almost going towards a degree of admission that not all of his paperwork was in the right place. That's interesting to me, because if that is the case, he may well have been found not to have given the information to Parliament. And what will Parliament do? Because if they give him a long ban, that could lead to a referendum here and another by-election. But don't tell the people of Clacton that yet, Ellie. They won't like it.
Well, Chris, on that point here, this could be a real double win for Nigel Farage, because clearly, you know, in getting out the vote in a by-election, considering there's no other serious candidates, not easy to do. Yeah. But if the other parties force another by-election, that could really smack them in the face at the end of the day, because the people of Clacton may decide to really punish them for doing that to them twice.
Well, exactly, and it could almost cement his support. Now, MPs I spoke to last night who have been campaigning for reform, they say that they don't even fear a second by-election. They've now got so much data of where supporters are. Don't forget, Farage won here with 6 weeks' notice back in July 2024. He wasn't due to stand, of course, in that election. In fact, he said he wasn't going to stand, and then you turned on that. They've now had another chance over the past 5 weeks to collect more information about where their supporters are. That makes it easier to get the vote out. They are now in a better place to win this by-election next time. The cost of by-election, £250,000, of course. Count Binface, he was the protest candidate. He was the only one who didn't lose his deposit. He got 9,000 votes, the best performing novelty candidate ever, 6 times more than Screaming Lord Sutch for the Motsy Raven Looney Party back in 1994. Count Binface saying he's the winning candidate of those who turned up for the result, making jokes. But I think this whole cavalcade will move on. It's been an interesting and a diverting bit of democracy in a hot summer.
OK, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. We'll see you again in about 30 minutes' time.
Well, still to come, at least 2 people have been left seriously injured after a train derailed in East Sussex.
Well, we're going to go through that and much more in the papers with Nigel Nelson and Claire Pearsall. That's after your European forecast.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. The hot weather is not just restricted to the UK at the moment. Much of Western Europe are under an extreme heat wave. And also some thundery downpours. Across the Canary Islands, though, it's much more reasonable temperatures in the 30s here with plenty of sunshine. Outbreaks of heavy rain affecting more higher ground parts of the Pyrenees as well as the Alps, seeing intense thunderstorms over the next few days. But more coastal areas should remain dry and bright with plenty of sunshine. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Music, as anybody knows, from Scotland or Ireland, it is very, very important to us all here. Most of us can lift a musical instrument, and actually there's a great children's band on stage at the minute, but I've managed to capture some people here. Where are you from?
We're from Dungannon.
And why are you here at the Fla?
We're here just for the music, the atmosphere and just the all-round celebration. It's a very proud moment for Belfast, and it's lovely to have the children out on their summer holidays, and I have a daughter who is playing and another one who's coming along to sing.
Well, let's hear you play. What are you going to play for us?
I'm going to play in a chair.
Well, go ahead.
Thank you.
The People's Channel, Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
People that have lived in London have chosen to move out because they don't feel... It's not about feeling safe as much. It's about feeling that they don't recognise London as the capital city of England anymore.
Well, I can't answer for those people. I mean, I think, you know, there are places all over the country that change. You know, there is a constant churn. There are parts of London that were once terribly, you know, poverty-stricken and that are now gentrified and are full of completely different places, to the point that local people, local communities have been squeezed out. There are places, you know, which have changed because the demographic changes. But, I mean, that happens everywhere.
You can say that about Bradford, you can say that about parts of Birmingham and these kind of things, some of these areas as well. But if you look at London, it's always been a bit of a melting pot.
Yeah.
It's the capital of a trading nation. It's why we have one of the best stock exchanges in the world, why we have the most investment, you know, foreign investment into this country.
The People's Channel. Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Michelle, how do you feel when you look back at that 5 years there, from where we first started in and out of those lockdowns?
Well, I've got to say, I've got to, right, first things first. I've worked on live TV for half a decade and I still forget to talk into a microphone.
Easily done.
What can I say? Well, you look back on some of that and you actually forget some of the absolute ridiculousness that has gone on in the last 5 years. And I think you summed it up well. When you go back to that period of the lockdown, the ridiculous control, the enforced vaccine mandates, you could feel like you was just going mad in your own little world. And to me, GB News, we really, really came into our own.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to GB News Breakfast with Mark and Ellie. We're going through the papers this morning in the company of Nigel Nelson and Claire Pearsall. And we're going to leave Clacton for now, this hour, because there's a couple of big stories that are taking place this morning. Let's have a look, Claire, at this devastating fire in the West Midlands.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the footage and 6 houses which are completely destroyed, and you just sort of wonder, those poor people, how are they going to be getting on with their lives from this morning? It's just an absolute devastating scene, and it's something which starts off in grassland. You look at now the overhead footage of the fields involved, and they are just blackened. The earth has sort of just taken it all, and it's destroyed people's livelihoods, and it must be so frightening for them. And you don't assume places like the West Midlands, you don't really think that there are going to be wildfires in places like that. You assume they're going to be further south, and it's a pocket of wildfire, and it's the same in other places around Birmingham as well. We've seen those spring up. So it's something I think the country now has to be really hard on, because you're going to come and see them in areas all around you, I think, going forward. It used to be something that was never seen. Now we're having more and more of them. This year has been particularly bad. We've seen them in Wales, up in the Cairngorms in Scotland, and I think that before the summer is out, there are going to be more. So we need to understand what we're going to do about it, how we're going to protect people and their livelihoods. And the firefighters, they just need the equipment in order to do their job.
Nigel?
Well, I mean, we've lost a lot of firefighters, so we might have to actually think again about that. But what we are going to need is a rethink about our weather. Britain has always been a sort of temperate climate, neither too hot, neither too cold. We're in a different world now. That climate change means that these kind of things are likely to be more frequent, and we're going to need to work out a response to deal with that.
The firefighters in the West Midlands have said they've been overwhelmed by public support for them. And I was actually just looking at some pictures online of water bottles, huge amounts of water bottles just being lined up on the streets for the firefighters that are clearly working so hard overnight.
Well, that's great. I mean, you know, they deserve all our support, because they don't have the kind of equipment that they have in Europe to deal with fires like this.
Let's have a look, both of you, at another very serious story, and this is this train derailment close to Lewes yesterday. 2 people seriously hurt as that train derailed. Nigel?
Yeah, I mean, we could be in the same situation as we are with the wildfires. This could be something due to the heat. We don't know yet, because the Rail Accident Investigation Branch have got to find out exactly what caused the accident. But there is a suspicion there were buckled rails. rails, and according to Network Rail, that the temperature, the pre-stress temperature for our rails is 27 degrees. It was 37 degrees yesterday in Lewis. The track will expand and close the gaps, and that then changes the rail and makes it buckle. So again, we need to look at that. But of course, we have another problem. In winter, the gaps will be too wide if we have really cold weather. So it's a difficult one to get right. But clearly, if the heat was responsible for what happened there, that is something that needs to be addressed too.
Claire, it's interesting. There's a picture with people standing on top of the train and looking back across the tracks as well. You can definitely see the tracks do look buckled further up from the train. So it might well be that it's heat-related in that sense.
And there's also the possibility that because the ground is so dry and you get the big fissures that open up in very dry ground, that actually some of the embankment along there is also collapsed, which then can shift the track and lead to that buckling as well. But it does beg the question, why our rails in extreme heat buckle or stretch, and you've got them all across Europe where they have heat more of the time than we do, and it doesn't work like that. So I think that we need to understand a little bit more how we're going to deal with it going forward, because as Nigel said, we're going to be dealing with these levels of heat, I think, more and more often. And if our infrastructure cannot cope and we're going to see more devastating effects like this, and it's fortunate that more people were not hurt. I think we need to be very grateful for that.
It's a message across the board, though, isn't it, that our infrastructure is just not fit for these sorts of temperatures. We need to look at aircon in public transport and in offices. It needs to be looked at, doesn't it, widespread.
Well, I mean, the old joke used to be about rail that it was leaves on the line or the wrong kind of snow or something like that. This is much more serious.
Yeah, it certainly is. Just a reaction, both of you, to that breaking news that we've had in our programme this morning, that petition to stop the early release from jail of PC Andrew Harper's killers has now reached over 1 million signatures, Claire. This is proof, isn't it, of a public sense of feeling on this issue.
Absolutely, yeah. It just shows the strength of feeling within the British public that it's a massive injustice that two killers should be let out so soon into their sentence. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Prime Minister to justify continuing on with his early release scheme. I think he should bin it entirely, because
then the prison service collapses.
But then
there's got to be a better solution.
There's got to be another way of doing it. If people have committed such heinous crimes that they're being allowed out halfway through, I think it just sends the wrong message out to other people committing crime in the future as well.
We don't want any of these people to come out.
No.
In an ideal world, they would serve their full sentences.
Well, have 3 instead of 2 in a cell.
But they're doing that already. I mean, there is a limit to what can happen.
Even more in a cell.
Take out some of the games rooms that they have in some prisons.
6, 10, you know.
Well,
I mean, but
whatever it takes.
It's not meant to be a comfortable existence for these individuals. If you commit a crime, you have to take the punishment that goes with it. And so far, it hasn't been a punishment.
It's short-sighted as well, because when we're talking about the release of 5,000 dangerous criminals, we had analysis from the Daily Mail this week that there'd be 90,000 more incidents of crime as a result of this early release. Well, then you need to find a place to put them back in prison, don't you? So we're just creating a cycle for ourselves.
Well, we are. And the probation service cannot cope with the amount of people it has coming through, and probation officers are pretty thin on the ground as well. They're not particularly supported, they're not paid very well, and you can understand people don't want to take up that career, but we desperately need them, because how are you going to deal with people on the outside? If they are being released, you need to be able to make sure that they're abiding by the conditions set. And if you don't have those support mechanisms there, then you're on a hiding to nothing, and that's why the crime rate would increase.
I mean, the answer is not to send people to prison, as David Gauke, the former Justice Secretary, recommended, for short sentences. You make those sentences suspended. So already magistrates now are suspending sentences of 12 months or less.
Yeah, but then you've just got them back out on the streets, though. The recidivists who are just out there continually committing crime after crime after crime.
Yeah, I don't think the situation is perfect. It's just trying to make the best of a bad situation.
OK, Nigel, Claire, thank you for your company today. Really good to see you both. Thank you. Let's get a check now on the weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A considerably cooler day to come for many of us. Still quite hot in the south and east, but not quite as exceptionally hot as yesterday. Cloud and rains pushed in from the north and west overnight, so some outbreaks of showery rain are likely across some more north and western areas. Across many central and eastern areas, though, it's going to remain very hot and sunny throughout the day. There's a risk of some fairly heavy showers across more northwestern areas, but the showers aren't going to be quite as heavy as yesterday, and temperatures will be a little bit lower. Quite widely across parts of more western Wales, western England, temperatures a good 5 or 6 degrees cooler than yesterday. Still, though, in the low 30s in the south and east. Into this evening, showers will continue across parts of northwestern Scotland in particular. A few of these are moving into more eastern and southern areas, but I think it should stay largely dry across southern and eastern Scotland. Similar story for parts of Northern Ireland. A few showers just pushing in from the north and west, and you can see some showery rain across parts of southern England. I think it's going to be quite light and just mainly cloud when it does move in, but that is a weather front pushing eastwards. It will continue to push eastwards throughout Friday night into Saturday morning, and as that moves into the more humid air in the south and east, we could see some heavier showers across parts of southern eastern England to start the day on Saturday. So quite a humid and warm night in the south and east. Elsewhere, though, much fresher temperatures around 10 to 12 degrees for many rural areas in particular, so much more comfortable for sleeping to start the weekend. There's plenty of dry weather on the cards for this weekend across the UK, plenty of sunshine as well, and it will feel cooler than it has done lately. It will continue to see showers across more northwestern areas, quite light though, and for most of us it's going to be a dry and warm weekend with temperatures much closer to average in the mid-20s. Bye-bye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 5 and 4 in Southampton after a fire. The M4 eastbound is affected by a collision at junction 3 in Hayes. The M40 is closed between junctions 10 and 9 in Bicester. In Scotland, the A720 eastbound has 2 lanes restricted at the Dreghorn junction on the B701. Across Wales, the A470 from Doldalod to Rhyadr is closed. And on the trains, southern services are facing major disruption between Lewes and Haywards Heath, and no trains between Three Bridges and Horsham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes. You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner. First of all, we want to give you £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Nigel Farage returns as a Member of Parliament, winning the Clacton by-election with over 22,000 votes.
Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
Well, the Reform UK leader didn't attend the count. He said that he was warned by the police of an organised plot to disrupt the declaration and humiliate him on stage.
Having won a resounding victory, a ringing endorsement of all that I've tried to fight for and you try to fight for, and be demeaned and humiliated by nobodies, and I will not, sadly, be attending the count.
Well, Count Binface came second with over 9,000 votes, following a boycott from other major parties, a move that Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, branded cowardly.
They're the ones who had the chance to have a contest against Nigel, and they're the ones who bottled it. They're like sort of cowardly chickens.
Well, taking to social media a little earlier, the Reform leader said the result in Clacton spoke for itself.
Nigel Farage is not around in Clacton today. He's backed away from his media commitments. He won that by-election with 1,000 more votes. His supporters say he did that with no jeopardy. They feel well set after the past 38 days. His opponents say the troubles are mounting. This investigation to a $5 million donation gift to him personally from a cryptocurrency tycoon carries on. We'll see how that plays out.
That this is a large and complex incident that has occurred on one of the hottest days of the year.
Firefighters battle to bring huge grass wildfires in Stourbridge under control as extensive devastation spreads to multiple homes in the West Midlands.
Well, it was almost apocalyptic scenes across much of the West Midlands yesterday as fires broke out across the region. Here in Stourbridge, at least 6 homes have been destroyed. Across the country, 11 major incidents declared.
Where 2 people are severely injured after a train carrying around 150 passengers derailed near Lewes in East Sussex, as rail bosses have announced an investigation into the cause of the incident.
Well, a major incident declared here in East Sussex. 20 people injured, 2 seriously injured. Today, all eyes turn to the Rail Accident Investigation Branch, who will find out exactly what happened here last night.
Good morning. Yesterday was exceptionally hot. Today will be much cooler for most areas, though still quite warm in the south and east. I'll have all the details for you a little later on.
Good morning, it's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Mark White. A very warm welcome to GB News Breakfast.
Well, to our top story today, Nigel Farage has been re-elected as Clacton MP in what he says is an overwhelming victory.
Farage, Nigel, Reform UK, 22,239. And I therefore do hereby declare that Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
Well, Nigel Farage didn't attend the election count overnight after Essex police warned him of an organised campaign to disrupt and degrade the result.
Well, I'm delighted to say that we can now speak to Bridget Phillipson, Minister for Women and Equalities. Very good morning to you, Ms Phillipson. What's your reaction to the results overnight in Clacton? Reform UK and Nigel Farage today celebrating a convincing, overwhelming win, they say.
Well, of course, Nigel Farage only wanted this by-election in order to distract and deflect from the many, many questions that are piling up, whether that's the £5 million dodgy gift or his connections to a convicted fraudster. You know, Reform had just engulfed in all of this sleaze and this scandal. And now the by-election's out of the way, I look forward to Nigel Farage levelling with the British people and being prepared to answer some questions about all of this.
But give him a bit of credit, surely, as far as a by-election is concerned. It's often really difficult to get the vote out, and especially when you guys didn't put any candidates up against him, again getting the electorate motivated. He's done pretty well, hasn't he?
Look, the people of Clacton have decided who they want to represent them, and that's our democracy. But we were never going to be a part of this ridiculous stunt that Farage was responsible for causing. But, you know, he's been re-elected. He's now back as the Member of Parliament for Clacton. He was the Member of Parliament for Clacton before, and now he can answer some questions about the sleaze and scandal engulfing his party.
You've described Clacton as a ridiculous stunt pulled by Nigel Farage. How was Makerfield not a ridiculous stunt? That was also a by-election that didn't need to happen. That was because one man wanted to return to Westminster, and he has now walked into number 10 without any parliamentary scrutiny and without any contest. Only 24,000 people have voted for him in Makerfield. Does he have any mandate to run this country?
Yes, of course he does. And the difference, of course, was that you had a Member of Parliament there who stood down. It wasn't the same Member of Parliament seeking re-election in a seat that they already held. And what Andy Burnham has been clear about is that he's focused on the things that really matter to the British people, whether that's, you know, revitalising our high streets, the changes that we're seeing around the cost of living, making sure that people get that breathing space. That's the work that we've been engaged in over the summer, rather than focusing on this stunt in Clacton.
But this MP's decision to stand aside was all manufactured. It didn't need to happen. Just like you say, the Clacton by-election didn't need to happen.
Well, people can have their opinions, but that Member of Parliament did stand down. Andy Burnham was elected in the by-election. It was a fantastic result, a really brilliant result, and shows what we can achieve against reform. But I think it's also right that we didn't stand a candidate in Clacton. And, you know, there is no hiding place now for Nigel Farage on these really big questions that he refuses to answer. They're put to him by journalists, and he refuses to answer them even to journalists. This is not just about politicians from other parties making mischief. This is journalists wanting to know exactly what's going on around the funding of his party, around the sleaze that's engulfing them, and he refuses to answer their questions. Well, there's no excuse now.
Well, he says that this investigation into him by the Parliamentary Standards Watchdog is being used as a political tool by the major political parties, the same major political parties that have refused to stand in this by-election. Reform UK would say this is proof of the Uni Party in action. What do you say to that charge?
I think we've got to be really careful in terms of how we talk about those processes in Parliament that are there for a reason, that are fair, that are transparent, that are robust, and that we're all, you know, responsible for answering to if questions are put to us. It wouldn't be appropriate for me as a Member of Parliament to talk about an investigation into another Member of Parliament. But I know that the work that goes on there through the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards is, you know, independent and impartial, and all of us who are members of Parliament have responsibilities to follow the rules. That applies across the board. There are no exceptions for people just because they don't like being asked hard questions.
Isn't the truth of it that Nigel Farage has outplayed you here? He's won this by-election, and you can't now, as a sanction going forward, surely call another by-election. The people of Clacton won't forgive you.
I'm not going to second-guess what any outcome might be through that process we've just been discussing in Parliament. But I think what everyone will want to see, and there's no good reason that he shouldn't do this, is that Nigel Farage should answer the questions that have been put to him about this dodgy £5 million gift, about what it was for, when he received it, whether he was intending to stand to be Reform leader once again, but also just the wider questions that we're seeing about his connections to a convicted fraudster. This isn't going away. So much as he thought calling a by-election and fighting, you know, spending the summer fighting a bin in Clacton would take away scrutiny, it hasn't. This hasn't gone away, and those questions remain unanswered.
Can I ask you about some breaking news that we've had whilst we've been on air, which is that this petition to stop the early release from jail of PC Andrew Harper's killers has now reached more than 1 million signatures, which is proof, isn't it, the strength of public feeling about this. The public are horrified that these two individuals who, let's not forget, were sneering and laughing in court, showing no remorse for what they did that night, potentially being released from prison early. Surely there's got to be a better way to solve this prisons crisis rather than releasing 5,000 dangerous criminals out onto our streets. Why are we not talking about Nightingale prisons? Why are we not talking about installing bunk beds, deporting 10,000 foreign nationals from our prisons? There's got to be a better solution than this.
I do completely understand the strength of feeling, not just from the public, but also from PC Harper's family, who've already been through such an appalling and traumatic ordeal, and I know they continue to live that every day. It's why Andy Burnham has said we will find a solution to this to make sure those two individuals in question are not released early. I mean, they weren't up for early release until next year in any case, but I do understand how deeply serious this is. And on that wider question, look, we don't want to be in this position of having to let people out early. It's why we're building more prisons. There's more places and there's more to come. But the ultimate kind of situation that we could have found ourselves in if we didn't take some of these difficult decisions is that when you arrest fresh, dangerous criminals, people who've committed serious violent offences, committed violence against women, that we could have ended up with nowhere to put them, no prison place available in order to put them, and potentially facing the collapse of the prison system completely. So this is not a situation that any of us want to be in, but it's because of years of failure under the Conservatives to make sure that we had adequate prison numbers to deal with the people that we needed to lock up.
OK, Bridget Phillipson, thanks very much for your input this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Let's head back to Clacton, shall we, and speak to our political editor, Christopher Hope. Chris, what a night it has been. Have you ever seen a by-election quite like it?
No, we haven't. We haven't seen a novelty candidate win that many votes ever in electoral history. He's called Count Binface, who's the only one of the other 33 candidates who didn't lose their deposit in this by-election. I can bring you some breaking news while I've got you both, by the way, Ellie and Mark. In the past few moments, the Parliamentary Standards investigation into Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has now been recommenced by the Standards Committee in the House of Commons. This inquiry is now listed as being active on Parliament's website. Previously it was suspended, so an update has been published today on Parliament's website to say that the investigation into this £5 million gift from Christopher Harborne, this crypto billionaire based in Thailand, but we think it may be moved back to the UK. That is now being recommenced. So Nigel Farage has had a break from that investigation, 38 days since he resigned as the MP for Clacton. Now is re-elected, as expected. That inquiry restarts again. That inquiry, if he's suspended from the House of Commons for misleading MPs over that gift, that could well lead to another referendum about whether to have another by-election into Nigel Farage, another £250,000 of our money spent on trying to see whether Mr Farage should be the MP for Clacton. He would say, were you here, there's no need for that. The people of Clacton have spoken, and his team is saying, look what he did here. He got 1,000 more votes than in July 2024 against no jeopardy, no major party standing against him. They say that's an achievement. Let's draw a line under the affair. But as I can say there, the investigation into Nigel Farage, the one he was so cross about when he called this by-election and quit as an MP, that's restarted moments ago.
OK, Christopher, thanks very much. I'm sure that Nigel Farage will be able to say now that here we are. Here are the establishment parties coming after me again, just like I foretold they would.
OK, 13 minutes past 9. A major incident has been declared in the West Midlands after a wildfire broke out, causing what's being described as apocalyptic scenes.
Well, police, fire crews and ambulances were called to Stourbridge after a large plume of smoke was initially reported.
Well, the fire is believed to have spread around 40 acres, causing multiple homes to burn down, forcing residents to evacuate.
Well, GB News national reporter Jack Carson joins us now from Stourbridge. Jack, good morning to you. What is the latest situation there? I'm assuming that most of these fires have been dealt with now, have they?
Yeah, the majority have, but the West Midlands Fire Service saying they're still dealing with hot spots and occasional embers reigniting. I mean, one worry that they will have during this day is that the heat once again ramps up today, that this might not be the end of what they're dealing with. So they're trying to manage the conditions that they've been left with this morning. As you were saying, acres and acres of grassland destroyed. We know here in Stourbridge at least 6 homes have been completely gutted by fires. The Chief Fire Officer of West Midlands Fire Service, Simon Toohill, saying that tinder dry conditions helped cause the spread. They are, of course, today beginning their investigations with the police and specialist fire investigators to work out exactly what ignited this, but they have confirmed that they do believe that it started in the grassland to the houses rather than from one of the houses and then into the grassland. But local residents here have described it as the perfect disaster, with the winds, the dry grass from no rain in this region for some weeks and months now, being the perfect storm to allow this to spread so quickly. This was just one of the 11 major incidents declared across the UK. West Midlands Fire Service saying they were dealing with thousands of 999 calls over the period yesterday as different pockets of wildfires and other fires broke out across the West Midlands due to this extreme dry weather. We know that 2 people, as we got confirmation from the West Midlands Ambulance Service, were taken to hospital from the Stourbridge fire yesterday, saying that they had crewed 3 double-crewed ambulances. The service's hazardous area response team also operating in the area. 6 people had been assessed on the scene, but in other areas, multiple firefighters had to be taken to hospital and other residents because of smoke inhalation. So for the fire service this morning, they're trying to deal with those hotspots to ensure they can continue to control the fires that spread here so quickly yesterday.
OK, Jack Carson, thank you for being across that for us here on GB News Breakfast.
And still to come on the programme, we'll have the very latest from Lewis in West Sussex on the situation of that train derailment. That's next.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Well, time now to get the latest on that train derailment in West Sussex. Here's Isabel Fekulak. Isabel.
Well, good morning to you both. Yes, I'm on the scene here, pretty much as close as you can get to the site of this train derailment that happened last night at around 3:54 p.m. Now, what we know about it at the moment is that 20 people have been injured, 2 people seriously injured. They were taken to trauma centres for treatment. In terms of the cause of this, the investigations have been opened by the Rail Accident Investigation Branch. They are on the scene here now, alongside about dozens of other emergency responders here working out what exactly caused this derailment. Passengers on board, around 150 passengers on board that Southern Railway train from London Victoria to Eastbourne, well, they were describing scenes of a terrifying ordeal. The train rocking from side to side, a large bang before it overturned, the rear 3 carriages ending up on their sides, one of them ending up down an embankment, a pretty small embankment, but still for those on board an extremely terrifying ordeal. The community here have described it as a miracle that no one was killed. Now, of course, the cause of this, too early right now to understand exactly what happened. Though speculation this morning talking about the heat. Of course, yesterday was one of the hottest days, the hottest day of the year, and that could have contributed to it. Although that investigation, like I said, ongoing, that cause currently unknown. Now, British Transport Police have declared this a major incident, and the community here in Lewes in East Sussex has been shocked by it. Many of them coming together last night, providing water, tea and coffee to those on board. There are some very striking images of passengers from that train coming out onto what was the side of the train, now the top, as it turned over. And there was reports that a few passengers were trapped, but they were quickly evacuated from the scene. So a terrifying ordeal for those on board, but it's been called a miracle that it wasn't a worse outcome than what it is. Of course, disruptions continue on the train lines between Lewes, so passengers are being told to check in advance, and rail replacement buses are available.
OK, Isabel Fekulak, thank you for bringing us that update.
Now, women in a tiny Yorkshire village are soon to be outnumbered 6 to 1 if Labour allows thousands of asylum seekers.
Well, it comes as the government is planning to move around 3,750 asylum seekers into 3 disused military sites, all on the doorstep of tiny villages.
A Labour MP has now warned of how plans to move 1,200 men into RAF Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire was unsuitable.
Well, let's speak now to Anna Riley, GB News Yorkshire and Humber reporter, who joins us live from Linton-on-Ouse. Very good morning to you, Anna. We're seeing this happen up and down the country, aren't we? These plans for migrants to completely outnumber villagers. How are people there feeling?
Good morning, Ellie and Mark. Yes, people here feeling understandably worried about the future for their village. We can even see signs here that says asylum seeker, still the wrong, asylum centre, still the wrong place, wrong plan, wrong place. That refers back to 2022 when plans here were scrapped for an asylum centre to be made from RAF Linton, which we can see just behind us now. We've got Olga here as well. She's a concerned resident. She's part of the Linton Action Group, and you can just tell, Olga, can't we? We can see here where the RAF base is. It was stopped in 2020 being used. This is where people would be living. It borders right onto people's homes next door, and it borders onto this residential street here.
It does, yes. So you said earlier that we were worried. We're also hugely frustrated. The Conservatives saw sense eventually after 4 months in 2022. We're not far off the 4 months now, and this new Labour government still hasn't seen sense. We've got a new Prime Minister. He had a perfect opportunity, taking his new job, to rescind this idea, and he hasn't. Instead, he's provided nothing but gimmicks as the start of his premiership, with beautiful sound bites about growth. So is growth for us and in our postcode, is that quadrupling the population? Well, we're not sure we want that kind of growth. We had thought it meant economic growth. He's also said he wants to visit everywhere, travel the country, listen to the people. He's an MP. He represents thousands of people. Has he not spoken to them? There are 649 other MPs who also represent everybody else in the country. Surely they have surgeries, they know what people think. Why does he need to Why does he need to waste taxpayers' money and travel the country instead of actually sitting down and thinking properly about solutions for some of the problems that the country has?
And what are the concerns here? You know, there's 700 people living here. It would be a huge influx, wouldn't it, to have 1,200 men just behind us here, free to roam around the village.
Well, what will they do? Boredom is a horrendous concern for them. It's what on earth will they do? As you've seen, it is a residential area. The base is in the village. They can go to York, in theory, but there are 4 buses a day, and they're single-decker buses. So how many of them can get on the bus? What will happen in York? York's only a small city. Granted, it's an ancient city, but that doesn't give it lots and lots of facilities. Here, we're at the limits for power, we're at the limits for water, for sewage, for any kind of infrastructure aspect. The police, they're thin on the ground because they're staffed by population size. North Yorkshire is a huge county, but not very populous.
Thank you, Olga. Sorry, we're just coming to the end of the programme. Thank you for sharing with us there. Of course, the Home Office would say they've got a mandate to remove people from expensive hotels. This could be used as accommodation because it's not currently in use at the moment, but certainly not something that residents want here, not something that local MPs want either.
OK, Anna Riley, thank you very much for bringing that to us. Britain's Newsroom coming up at 9:30. Charlie Peters and Miriam Cates are here to tell us all about it. Morning, you two.
Good morning.
Morning. It's good to see you two together. You've been looking after it. How's it been?
We have. We've had a lovely time
Usually
together.
it's me in that role. So I see someone else doing it.
You've made it to the end of the week. I think the Richard Tice chicken impression was the highlight.
Highlight of the programme, for sure.
Something for everyone.
Also, you do the sound effects every other time.
They're asking us to get a move on. I'm sorry. All that coming up after the break. See you shortly.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed at Junction 2 in Romsey. The M40 is closed between junctions 10 and 9 in Bicester. The M11 southbound has an incident at Junction 14 in Girton. The M6 southbound has a stranded vehicle between junctions 18 and 17 in Congleton. In Scotland, the M74 southbound has queuing and lane restrictions at Junction 5 in Raith South off Slip. Across Wales, the A470 from Doldalod to Rhyadr is closed.